Part 321. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3215. Mosquito calmly stated his request. "Oh no, Your Highness, that little human race is going to die." Suddenly there was an exclamation from behind. Both looked back in surprise. A powerful subordinate came over. "Little human race," Mosquito's expression changed. He was not talking about the person he wanted, right? Although she met by chance, she couldn't do anything successfully in front of her father, which was very embarrassing for her and also affected her image in Jia Yan's mind. You must know that although a top master will definitely take care of his children, it will never last forever. If her performance is too mediocre, she may only enjoy a quiet status in the future, and it is impossible to have breakthroughs in strength and resources and status. Sorry, there are some problems in the training ground. I want to go in and check the situation. Miss Jiao, why don't you come and talk about it next time? The prince's mother-in-law was able to climb to the position of prince among the brothers and sisters, so he was naturally not a mediocre person. His tone changed and he winked at the subordinate. "Just this time, I know something about the little humans, and I just happened to go over to help you treat them," Mosquito said with a smile. "Oh well." Prince Po Xiao smiled and nodded indifferently. "For them, if they can't stop it, then let it go." Presumably Mosquito wouldn't be able to conflict with himself over such a slave. Sure enough, he is going to die. This should be one of the sisters that Senior Wu Pilot asked me to find. Seeing the little human woman lying bleeding in a pool of blood, Mosquito had a headache. She has a gentle temperament, but also has a bit of the calmness of her mother Satsuma Kono, which can even be said to be cold. Just better than her mother. Now that I have no connection with this small human female whom I met for the first time, I will naturally not get angry. I just don't want to fail the mission. Forget it, if it can't be cured, take it to the crematorium. Prince Po Xiao checked it, but he was not very interested. He thought he had found a good sandbag, but he didn't expect that he would die on the first day. "Miss Jiao, this is the situation. I'm sorry. I hope this is not the little human you wanted." Mosquito shook his head calmly. "It's okay. Since you are dead, can I take you back? I will pay the money and give my slave an explanation." "Of course it's okay. Since they are all dead, I won't accept your money." Prince Po Xiao was very angry. "It's just a dead person anyway, so I gave it to Miss Jiao as a favor and a chance to make friends." Mosquito nodded and watched as Prince Po Xiao called to a venerable level guard commander in the distance, asking him to use his brainwave power to lift the little human woman into the air and leave with Mosquito. "Prince, are you interested in this Miss Earth?" The young talents of the Po Xiao clan came forward and carefully asked the prince's attitude. If the prince is interested, he will be more respectful to Mosquito in the future. After all, he may be the future queen. Haha, it's not about interest, it's just about making friends. By the way, there shouldn't be many families on Earth. I asked you to investigate the matter of this woman with the surname of Thorn. How did you do? Nothing was found. She must have used a pseudonym, but we investigated a piece of curious news about the surname Thorn. News about surname assassination? Tell us about it. When we investigated, we found out that there is no surname of Thorn on Earth, or that the surname of Thorn does not exist now, but rumors of a person with the alias of Thorn are widely spread in the Earth Alliance, even in the Orion Arm. Huge spread. Oh? Who is the person with the alias and surname? Since it can be widely circulated in the Orion Arm, he should be a very high-level existence in the Earth Alliance. This person is not only a high-level member of the Earth Alliance or the Orion Arm, but also has a status like a needle in the sea in our Trade Zone Alliance. Dingai Shenzhen? Is that what you said? Yes, it is Lord Jia Yan. It is said that this lord has used the pseudonym of assassin several times and traveled around the sea of stars. He can be said to have made the name of assassin famous all over the world. Nowadays, many people on Earth, may the Orion Arm Youth also likes to give himself the pseudonym of Crick when he goes out, but he doesn't know that this Miss Ciao has such a pseudonym because she likes it, or, is really related to that person. When Prince Pa Shao heard this for the first time, he thought for a moment, but he didn't think so in his heart. After all, it was just a false rumor. Moreover, young people on Earth like to use pseudonyms, so the possibility of having anything to do with that person is very low. But after settling for a moment, he became somewhat solemn again. Where is this place? There is the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in the other world where Lord Jia Yan is personally in charge. If young people on Earth really like to use pseudonyms, then he has made friends with so many people on Earth, but no one has such a pseudonym. Why? It means that no one on Earth would pretend to have a tattoo in front of that person as a sign of respect. But Thorn Chiaoer was used openly. And for more than 10 years, there seems to be no trouble coming to the door. Whether it is really related to that adult or not, we need to pay more attention to this matter. After all, my mother-in-law's hand skills are far behind compared to that person. Poe's strength is very strong, but it is not as good as the strongest. They only have 2 domain lord level masters. Among the many alliances or business franchisees in this trade area, they only account for the middle class, let alone those with Junlin Tianxia. Jia Yan on a par with you. Go back immediately to find the best doctor, the one who can treat the indigenous people in the other world. I will take you with you to set off in half an hour. Follow the order. The subordinate took the order and left in a hurry. After he thought about this information, he became a little surprised and uncertain. If Prince Mother-in-law provokes Lord Jia Yan, his confidant who made suggestions may also be implicated, and he may die without knowing how. This end. With the help of the Venerable, Jia Makiao quickly sent Wu Pila's sisters to the training ground where the black god Jia Yan was stationed. What's wrong? The Venerable level expert felt his eyes flash as an earthling man in black clothes and black hair suddenly appeared, and he was immediately frightened. He is at the Venerable level. In the eyes of the local strong men in the other world, he may be considered as strong as a half-grown child at most, but among the humanoid races in the galaxy, he is not too weak. But he couldn't even see how the other party appeared. Dad, this is the clan sister of Senior Wu Baile. She was accidentally injured by the crown prince in the training ground and is dying. Black god Jia Yan flew out smelling the smell of blood. Now after hearing Jia Makiao's few words, he has already thought of what happened. Senior, His Royal Highness just made a mistake. He didn't mean it. The Venerable level person was also a well-rounded person. Hearing Jia Makiao say the 5 characters Senior Wu Pila, he suddenly felt bad. He felt his hand light up, and the 10-kilometer-long body of the little human race woman was taken over by the black-haired man. Go back. In addition, your prince will not have to send anyone to apologize. Secondly, your prince will go out to work from now on and be responsible for handover work with the Shuanghao troops outside the city. He will not have to come back in less than 10 years. Before the Venerable level man finished speaking in shock, he felt a huge surge of power coming from his body. This force pushed him horizontally until he was 1,000 kilometers away, and then the stormy waves stabilized. He was not injured, but was quite frightened. So strong. This unfathomable power is something I've never seen before in my life. Little did he know that His Highness the Crown Prince had provoked a peerless master, so he quickly turned around in despair. During the process, he actually met Prince Po Shao, who was bringing a doctor. He quickly stepped forward to stop him, and after explaining the request of the black-haired strong man, Prince Po Shao frowned sharply. Which of you has information about that person? Back to the prince. Over the years, although many people have spied on the father behind her because of the assassination of Miss Jiao, no one has obtained accurate information. And what? As far as I know, there was a master of humanoid gods from the great realm of gods. His strength reached the peak of semi-star level, and star level was just around the corner. However, after provoking Miss Jiao one time, he disappeared the next day. And no news has been heard since. There was a gasp of air from the surrounding rescue teams. The half-star peak master is no longer a flower in this residential area, but if he disappears like this, even if the mother-in-law prince comes to do it, everyone will know about it. After all, there must be a protector or someone behind him. The leader in the force should make some noise. That senior wants me to work in the double good general's army outside the city, right? I'll go, that's all, it will only be 10 years, alas. Prince Po Xiao thought about it, his face changed several times, and finally made a decision, and his whole person suddenly became depressed. You must know that he is his cousin, Prince Chili, and he has lived in the residential area of this world for a long time. He does not come here to enjoy the blessings without any meaning. Instead, he came to open up the situation, representing the mother-in-law's right to speak. It can be said that every year and every month has a huge role and significance. But at this moment, he has to leave for 10 years, which means that in these 10 years, the prestige and reputation he created here have been completely lost. And God knows what accidents will happen if we go to the double good army outside the city. But he did not dare to try to disobey the one's words. Judging from the few words spoken today, Ci Chiao and the senior behind him, were probably connected even if they were not related to Lord Jiayan, and he did not dare to take any risks. After all, everyone knows that there must be Earthlings from the Jiao family hidden in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in this world. This is why, even if the entire Earthlings are as weak as novices in this station, no one dares to trample them easily. After all, the backers behind the people on Earth are really powerful. Prince, the matter hasn't come to light yet. In fact, you don't have to listen to the other party's words so easily. Prince Po Xiao waved his hand. He said bitterly, before I came to the other world, my father told me not to have even a trace of hostility towards any Earthling. The Earthlings, who can come here are not small characters. Let alone that kind of master, do you understand what I mean? After saying that, the medical team of Prince Po Xiao naturally did not dare to visit. With such a master around, they couldn't guarantee that they could save someone who couldn't be cured. He's quite a smart boy. In the huge space of the training room on the other side, Jia Yan, with black hair and black eyes, smiled and whispered. Dad, what did you say? Jia Makiao was confused. It's nothing. This little human lady can still be saved, but I think you did something wrong in this matter. You should have asked Prince mother-in-law to provide treatment on the spot. Her situation would not have been so tragic. If I hadn't taken action in time, her life is hanging by a thread at this moment. Okay, it's my fault. Jia Makiao was startled. She thought she had done a good job, and she was completely calm throughout the whole process. But what Jia Yan wants to express is precisely the wrongness of this attitude. There is no better son than a father. Jia Makiao was brought up most of the time by his mother, Satsuma Kono, and his temperament imitated her mother's. At just a few years old, he already had some signs of being an iceberg beauty. He didn't want his daughter to grow up and become a person who didn't know the warmth and kindness of others. Since you admit your mistake, I will sentence you to leave the station for 3 years and go to the central branch of the Chamber of Commerce to open up the situation there and take full control of the trade system's deficit and currency power. Are you willing? Hearing that Jia Yan really wanted to punish himself, Jia Makiao felt bad. Dad, I want to read a book, so I just need to stay with you. She has a really quiet temperament and likes to be quiet and unmoving. As my daughter, Jia Yan, Do you think you still have the chance to experience nothing in your life? While you are still young, go through some wind, frost, snow, and rain first. If you want to live a quiet life in the future, you should choose to be more mature. A magnificent life is all up to you, but at this time you must listen to your father and me. Oh, okay then, I'll go. You can take these little humans you bought with you. As for Wu Bailey, just stay and be my father's maid. Oh, okay. Jia Makiao looked at Jia Yan with surprise. She was thinking, do you want to report to your mother later? I am afraid that my father is really infatuated with the female little human race in the other world. Otherwise, why would he let himself take other people away but not Wu Pilot? She thought it was wrong. Jia Yan is simply because of the old relationship between the two parties. And on Wu Baila's side, Jia Yan also has something he wants to verify. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's humanoid settlement area is said to be more than 10,000 kilometers long, but it's only that small of a place. Prince Po Xiao asked for punishment because of his father's words of stabbing Jiao Er, and went to work outside the city, which was considered the most difficult by the residents. This matter can't be kept secret for long, the movement is too big. After a while, everyone knew that Miss Jiao Er, the iceberg beauty who had always been quite quiet and calm among the young people on Earth, actually had a mysterious and powerful backer. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3216. The origins of this backer are varied. It is said that her father is the top expert in the Earth Alliance, and even has direct access to heaven, and can talk to Master Jia Yan. It is also said that Jiao originally belonged to the Jiao family clan. Such a famous family not only has top experts to look after her, but also has all the resources and key protection in the entire settlement. However, the slap in the face happened quickly. That is, as soon as Prince Pa Xiao left, Jiao announced the next day that she would also be released. He actually went to the central region of the dynasty. He only brought a few accompanying guards, who seemed to be of average strength, followed by a few newly purchased small human female servants. This was quite unexpected. It was unclear for a while whether she was a junior member of the top family on Earth. If he is a key figure on the Earth, if he has any connection with the top family on the Earth, the Jiao family, how can he be released? This matter also caused a great impact among the senior officials of the station. Some people still don't know the relationship between the Black God assassin and the real person Jia Yan, so some senior officials claim to be loyal and righteous, and they immediately go to President Jia Yan, who has announced that he will be in seclusion for a period of time. But what they were disappointed with was that Jia Yan didn't give any response. They didn't know whether he was in deep cultivation or had already left invisibly. In the Milky Way, it is very difficult and unrealistic for a master of the lower level of a domain lord to go out casually. Not to mention the physical appearance, which is difficult to hide, but only the high status, it is difficult to hide from the subordinates and people. But it's different in the other world. Creatures that are only 60 kilometers away are wandering around in biomes that are thousands of kilometers away. Don't be too relaxed. For a time, the whole station had different opinions on the departure of Jiao. But no one can stop it. I've been in the world for 10 years. It's my first time to go out. I'm really excited. Far outside Xiancheng, Jia Makiao smiled like a spring breeze. She holds a thick book in her hand, and at first glance she looks like a harmless literary girl. And she was sitting in a house-like thing, which stood on the shoulders of a female mini-human. The people on Earth are too small. The small humans are already called small creatures, but they are still as big as the mountains of the Earth. If you just stick a house on your shoulders, if you pay attention, you can go out and live like you live in the mountains and follow the mountains. There is little difference in environment and conditions. Miss Jiao, it's not safe outside. Don't get too happy too early. A strong humanoid female with an expressionless face was beside Jiao Makiao. Although Jia Yan did not think that Jiao Makiao would be in danger with his own backup, he still needed a guard in the clear sense. The small human race was not trustworthy for the first time, so he found a female master who had reached the lower level of the star. To protect. This is an existence that is about to enter the galaxy level, and is not a small figure in the trade area. I will be careful, and I would like to thank you for your protection. Senior Jiao Makiao nodded at him humbly. The strong female was very satisfied. Although she was not the humanoid life form of the Orion arm, she still had her own selfish motives for the task of escorting her. The status of Earthlings is so special that they are worth making friends with. Of course, if something cannot be done, don't blame her for running away. After all, for her, it is just a task to accompany the senior disciples to go out for experience. Moreover, so far, she does not know who issued the task to her. She only knows that it is a task. It's a secret mission. The little human woman they lived in was the younger sister of Wu Pila, a strong female human being. She was of average strength, about the first level of a venerable. This was also the limit that many small humans could naturally grow to in their lifetime. Be careful. She nodded to the remaining 3 small human women who were traveling together, then carefully looked at the closed door of the house on her shoulder, and tried not to cause any turbulence before kicking the scarab mount under her feet and flying up. The mounts are the preferred offspring of scarabs bred by Galaxy Shang over the years. They are not only more powerful, but also more docile. They were also given a few of them during this trip. From this group of small humans can also see the power and magic of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. It has been in the other world for so many years, and the optimization and nurturing of this very important mount creature of the small human race has been carried out for countless generations, but it is not as effective as the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has entered the other world for just a few decades. Jiao Makiao was looking at the scenery outside the window in the living room. He soon lost interest. He excused himself to the female guard, entered his room, picked up the book and started reading with gusto. Reading is a good habit, and people who are used to reading have a unique charm, and they will know more. Not long after reading, she finished reading a book from the Orion arm and sighed, "The many civilizations and knowledge in the Orion arm are so vast that I will never be able to read them all in my life. But I recently discovered that there are many other books outside the Orion arm. The Milky Way has at least hundreds of millions of times the amount of books in it. When will it be possible to read all of them? If there are some very interesting books that I can't read before I die, wouldn't I regret it for the rest of my life?" She has really become a little book lover, and thinks that if she misses any good books that suit her taste, it will be a lifelong regret. So she has been reading quickly. Recently, she has been able to read a 500-page book in almost half an hour, and can roughly memorize all the contents of the book. But she doesn't have any pride. Jiao Makiao once saw with her own eyes that Senior Edisha, who was still young at the time, finished a book in 10 seconds and read the contents of the book verbatim. After reciting it, she got nowhere. "My father sent me out because he wanted me to read less, because the book said that it is better to travel thousands of miles than to read thousands of books. Now that I have walked out and looked at the scenery outside, it is indeed exactly the same as what the words in the book describe. It's different, this is the real world." Jiao Makiao looked at the scenery outside the window. Sighed again. She is too homely and follows her father's avatar to practice, either practicing or studying. She has no desires. Although she wants to be a strong person, it doesn't seem to matter if she can't. It's so strange. Why have we been walking for so long without any attacks or obstacles? At this time, she heard several small human women outside being suspicious. Another responded with a smile, "This is all thanks to the troops of General Xuanghao. He has been developing near Xiancheng for more than 10 years, and now he has mastered the entire large area near Xiancheng. This area here, it seems to be connected with the Chamber of Commerce. Not only the urban residents are managed, but also most of the races in the mountains and forests are managed. You see, the mountains over there were originally a place where various races gathered. They usually fight. Fighting and killing to occupy the territory. It is said that our small human race also lived in it thousands of years ago and was eventually killed. But such a chaotic and lawless place was ruled and stabilized by the two good generals. Look inside the mountain, the streets, buildings, and factories have all been built, and the bad guys are under management. You think, wouldn't it be much safer for us to walk outside? Several other small human women who seemed to be unaware of this could not help but be dumbstruck after hearing this. Mosquito also looked in the direction they pointed, and suddenly smiled with understanding. That mountain forest is a test site of Zihao Mountain Forest, and a demonstration site for management projects launched by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and the Double Good Army. If the rule is good, it will have a demonstration and siphon effect on the surrounding areas. Maybe the entire area near Xiancheng of Nida will be completely controlled by the Shuanghao Army and the secret Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and eventually release almost the largest production value effect. From the perspective of capitalists and economists from the Milky Way, the practice of abandoning countless small intelligent life races in this world, reducing them to non-intelligent life, and not recognizing their status is like a waste of the biggest life. Wealth. Countless people in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce have long been jealous of such a huge labor force and market. They have appealed to Jia Yan dozens of times, but they were all blocked by Jia Yan and several senior officials because the timing was wrong. In the end, it was because of the dynasty that they betrayed themselves and asked Jia Yan to go to the capital and have a dispute with them openly and secretly. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce showed its iron fist and strength, and vaguely reached a verbal agreement with the dynasty. This mysterious world, the urban area, was barely controlled by the secret Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Miss Jiao, in just 2 days of travel, we will arrive at the military headquarters of General Shuanghao. I wonder if you will follow the schedule and go down to meet General Shuanghao. Did you arrive in 2 days? It's really fast. Let's go there. It's been a long time since I saw Senior Shuanghao. On this day, Mosquito put away his books and nodded. Within 2 days, they arrived at the capital of the Double Good Army guarding the border area of Xiancheng Mansion. It is true that Xiancheng is a city, but outside the city, there are a large number of ordinary villages, as well as countless scattered residents and powerful people. And this so-called Shuanghajun garrison was originally just a small village, with about 100 villagers scattered around. After Xiancheng was secretly occupied by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the Shuanghao army inexplicably entered the Xiancheng area to guard the border. This village became one of the most important border villages, and General Shuanghao himself has been stationed here for many years. The small village has also become like a big city, but there is no tall city wall that Xiancheng still retains, but wooden houses and high-rise buildings stand in clusters. The total resident population has reached 30,000 to 40,000. In addition, the number of troops reached more than 30,000. With the wealth and ability of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, it is more than enough to support a large army. The imperial court knows the strength of this place, but has no choice but to turn a blind eye. After all, no matter what, compared to the hundreds of millions of thieves who have become a stubborn disease in the northern land, and the large number of anti-thieves appearing everywhere, Xiancheng is better. I've met 2 good seniors. Before Mosquito approached Shuanghao's garrison, a huge giant rose into the sky below. When he saw him, Mosquito, who had always understood etiquette, was the first to greet him. "Miss, you don't need to be so polite. Don't dare to overestimate your love." Because others didn't know it, but he knew that the little human race in front of him was actually his teacher's only daughter. Compared to his disciple's status, that was much nobler. But he couldn't let others pay too much attention to his nervousness, so after smiling, he led Makiao down to the general's mansion on the ground. Are those soldiers trained by seniors over there? They are indeed fully equipped. Miss, you are joking. You should know that these soldiers are not trained by me. They are all the work of the Chamber of Commerce. Xuanghao met Makiao in the guest room, and the two talked about the Xuanghao army they had seen before landing. The total strength of the Xuanghao army in this garrison is currently over 30,000. But Xuanghao himself, and Makiao, who watched the black god Jia Yan handle secret matters every day, knew that among the people in this area, there were more than 10,000 people who were hiding in the Xuanghao army during the rest, and the second was even more exaggerated. What's more, among the Little Wisdom racial tribes that are not recorded in the official books, there are actually about 100,000 troops that can be drawn out. The number of these intelligent beings that are not recognized by the imperial court at this time is surprisingly large. After all, it is a place where the Chamber of Commerce claims to be equality. When they come here, they feel like they are in heaven, not to mention that they are brought by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The ultra-advanced lifestyle, let alone the complete equal status they provide, is like a magnet, attracting countless tiny creatures. The enthusiasm they erupted even surpassed the imagination of the administrative officers of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce who secretly controlled this place. At first, they said that they would select soldiers from a race of tiny creatures. Unexpectedly, the next day, about 300,000 tiny creatures came forward. Their strength regardless of high or low, they all look like they are willing to die for Xiancheng. In the end, the political officials only allowed the strongest 100,000 to enlist in the army, and they were trained secretly, and combined with the technological combat skills of the Milky Way, as well as a large number of semi-technological weapons produced by city factories across Xiancheng. Their combat effectiveness, it is quite worth looking forward to. Oh, Senior, are you dealing with official business? This is the population book, can I see it? Certainly. If you are a good couple and Makiao, you really have nothing to hide. Makiao opened the population book of the garrison city and flipped through several other recent data books, and then he was amazed. This border city, which has only been developed for 10 years, now has a nominal normal population of more than 70,000 soldiers, as well as more than 1.7 million small biological races. The total economic value has exploded. No wonder she flew just now. When I got down to the ground, I felt that this place was far from being as simple as a small city. There were many high-rise buildings and a large number of factory chimneys. There were countless small races smiling on their way to work or for entertainment after work anytime and anywhere. Makiao sighed. This is just a border city. There are a total of 15 similar border cities on the border of Xiancheng. Each one is considered a port and the scale is similar. The real industrial base is not even on the border. For people in the galaxy, the Xiancheng area is actually extremely vast. The resources and specialties of each place are different. They have developed various areas and towns according to local conditions. Here at Xuanghao Guard's house, because wars sometimes break out, the probability is not the point at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3217. The real focus of Xiancheng now, the real essence, are the 4 major cities besides Xiancheng. The total population of each of these 4 major cities, including small creatures, exceeds 50 million. Even to a certain extent, compared to Xiancheng, which is the administrative center and is difficult to openly change its appearance, the 4 major cities are the most prosperous places under the rule of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. There are also a large number of immigrants from the galaxy, and even some kind of, in a sense, every place has civilization and prosperity that exceeds all the cities in the imperial dynasty. Certainly. I am afraid that no more than 1% of these people will actually be recognized by the dynasty, because small creatures are not considered human beings. It is precisely because the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce treats small intelligent races as human beings that countless races have emerged from the barren mountains and ridges, and some have given up their hometowns and been expropriated by the Chamber of Commerce. A large number of their families have entered factories, schools, and government agencies, thus changing the world. They have realized their destiny and become real people who hold their heads high and live a civilized life. Although their strength is not as good as that of the normal people of the dynasty, their numbers are large and their enthusiasm is unprecedentedly high. For the sake of social status, even if the whole dynasty comes to attack, they will definitely go to the front line to die. Moreover, don't forget that there are also a large number of talents led by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce from across the galaxy. The productivity of small creatures is not as good as that of the normal people of the dynasty, and the shortcomings of low combat power. Thanks to the massive work of countless talented people teaching, improving, researching and developing, granting cultivation skills, life skills, weapon usage abilities, etc., they are no longer wuxiaman. Not strong in combat. If you dare to come to an imperial soldier with a knife, they will dare to single-handedly hold the special firearms from the other world and pull the trigger to beat you into a hornet's nest. Have a population but not enough productivity? This is the easiest problem to solve for technological civilization. A large number of excavators, ships, mining machines, and even civilian vehicles are being continuously sent to all cities from local factories everywhere, making up for the lack of power of small creatures. What's more, their small size is only for the people of the imperial dynasty. In the eyes of many lower-level officials in the smaller galaxy, without exception, they are all natural powers. The weaker the government system of the galaxy, the more they can feel the huge power gap between them and the residents of other worlds, and sometimes they can use their people as human beings and meat diggers. No wonder, I just saw so many machines operating in the city. It turns out that the population already has this amount. Mosquito looked at the large amount of data and secretly clicked his tongue. The economic figures are even more eye-catching. With the help of crushing foreign professionals from the galaxy, the whole process was extremely smooth. After all, there were no dynasty professionals who could be their opponents. Put it this way. Today, the total economic development value of Xiancheng in just 10 years is almost equal to the figures of 50 Xiancheng areas outside. It has only been 10 years of development. In a few decades, I am afraid that the economy of a single Xiancheng will be comparable to that of one or two provincial governments in the dynasty. You must know that the prefecture-level area of the dynasty is large enough to cover 500 or 600 Xiancheng. In addition, a lot of effort has been spent on the education and training of personnel. Today's young people in the Xiancheng area are no longer what they used to be. Xuanghao has been a disciple of Jia Yan for a long time. He has received a lot of education from the Milky Way, and he can speak politely. What about foreign war? I remember that there were constant conflicts in the border areas, Mosquito asked. Both lovers dare not neglect. He believed that even if Mosquito did not receive explicit instructions from Jia Yan, he must still have a secret status like an imperial envoy. It is true that there are always wars, but the war targets are not necessarily surrounding cities, but mostly independent family towns, as well as gangsters and other forces. Of course, these forces are generally not weak. There was a wave of bandits in the past few days. After passing by, we even dispatched an army of 1,000 people to wipe them out. An army of 1,000 people is already an exaggeration. The current combat strength of the two good armies is enough to equal 10 to 1, maybe more. Mosquito then asked, what about the number of opponents? How does the final battle situation compare? At this point, Xuanghao's expressions automatically showed a ray of arrogance. The opponent is an anti-thief army of 20,000 people. They originally wanted to come here to fight against the autumn wind. They even have plans to use the now very developed Xiancheng as their future base. If Lord Jia Yan had not been so famous, it might have been possible to conquer Xiancheng. But in that battle, all 20,000 people were defeated by my 1,000-strong army. In the end, not many escaped. More than 5,000 people were killed, and another 10,000 were killed. More than 3,000 people surrendered and are now sent to labor camps. Our army suffered 20 casualties, all caused by accidents. Jia Makiao nodded. No surprises. If the two good armies, which have the advantages of combat readiness and tactical crushing, are not able to crush them on such a large scale, then it would be a huge disappointment to the bosses of the trade zone. However, this little battle damage surprised Jia Makiao. Is the combat effectiveness of the rogue thieves too weak, or are the two good armies too strong? I understand. Senior Xuanghao, please arrange my accommodation. I will go to the outside world to report on my work tomorrow. Please come with me. Xuanghao's current status is like that of a feudal official of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, managing what appears to be an extremely large-scale private armed force, but in fact does not have much real power. This has nothing to do with whether he is Jia Yan's apprentice. His biggest role is to create the reputation of this double good army. The subsequent command and training rights are all handed over to professionals from advanced civilizations. Even if Jia Yan wants to favor him and delegate power to him, he doesn't have the ability to manage it. But this is enough to satisfy both lovers. The more he knew about Galaxy's capabilities, the clearer he became that it was not easy for him to achieve his current status. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in the future is destined to make great achievements on the Imperial Island. He can become a military general and follow the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which is enough to make him extremely prominent. Compared with being killed as a small human being at the beginning, he has once again gone through the magnificent decades of experience, and he is already extremely satisfied with his current status. Even his parents came from afar during a special operation, and he even found the daughter of the city lord of his city whom he met by chance during the adventure to be his wife, that is, the princess of the city. The child is about to be born. With such a result, what else could he be dissatisfied with? After all, he was the one who almost saw through the world of mortals. Jia Makiao stayed at Zhuanghao Guard's house for about 2 days. After 2 days and inspecting many frontier tasks, she set off again. Miss Jiao, your status should be unusual, right? Just when Jia Makiao was sitting on the sofa in the house on the shoulder of the female little human, reading a book with gusto, a submissive voice came from above. It was the little human woman who made Jia Makiao live on her shoulder speaking. Why did you say that? Jia Mo accidentally put on the book, opened the window, and looked into the eyes of the female mini-human next to him. Their eyes met. Even in the eyes of the little human, the body of the earthling was only millimeter-sized, but the little human woman still looked away in shame. Even the two good generals who are rumored to have made great achievements personally welcomed you and escorted us out of the city. Your status must be very high. We, the little humans, are just short, not fools. The little humans have very high IQs. In a sense, they are much smarter than the giants. Well, what then? After this mission is over, I want to join the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Instead of my current status as a slave, I want to really do something. I want to join you, and I also want to live the life of those small creatures in the garrison. The eye-child of this female little human race fell on Jia Makiao again, and she was very determined. These days, not only Jia Makiao has been inspecting, but they, the little human women who came out from the depths of the mountains, are also watching with dumbfounded eyes. They couldn't believe their eyes at all. You have only been hiding in the mountains and forests for a few years, and the world outside has already been turned upside down? Until they learned through some insinuation that all this was brought about by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, They collectively couldn't sit still. Even if you become a so-called factory girl, you will have a free status. You will also have the income at your disposal. You can go shopping, play, and even go for luxury purchases such as medical beauty. Actually, your status is still inferior to those ordinary small creatures recruited by the Chamber of Commerce. You are criminals, and you are small humans who were purchased by me through legal procedures. If I bring you, there is no legal problem with being used as a slave by your side. Jia Makiao's words made the other party's face turn pale. But she changed the subject. But since you asked for mercy, I am not an unreasonable person. Let's do this. As long as you accompany me and complete the tasks assigned to me by my father, I will let you go free for 3 years, whether it's long or short. I believe you are willing to spend 3 years in exchange for real status and freedom. What do you think? We do. The few little human women who had been eavesdropping on their conversation almost said the same thing. As if he was afraid that Jia Makiao would regret it. But Miss Xiao Jiao, our sister, Upper Li, where is she? She won't be in danger now, Master's sighed. Jia Makiao laughed dumbly. Don't worry, my dad said that she is my dad's old friend. There won't be any surprises at this time. At most, she will just, well, she will be treated as a test subject. Jia Makiao doesn't really think that his father will betray his mother. Test subject? Several female mini-humans looked at each other and became even more nervous. But Jia Makiao said nothing and continued his long journey. Her mission was assigned by Jia Yan himself, and it also allowed her to grow from a child to an adult. Jia Makiao enjoyed this process very much. As for the other side, you, don't come over. Outside Xiancheng, where the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is located, the sound of Wu Baila's startled bird was heard. Don't worry, it's nothing weird. Instead, Black God Jia Yan was slowly approaching Wu Baila, gently applying the power of the formation in his hand to the opponent. Ah! Wu Baila screamed in surprise. Then the shouting stopped. She suddenly discovered that her body was forming a bond with the power in the formation. As expected. Black God Jia Yan smiled and nodded, confirming his experimental guess. Wu Baila is a very unique research subject. The reason is simple. She was the person who taught Jia Yan about martial arts and how to use energy after he first visited the other world. At this point, I am afraid that even Zhuanghao is not as good as Wu Baila and others, because Zhuanghao initially became a disciple of Jia Yan, partly because Jia Yan had no choice but to do so. Wu Baila and others were his subordinates. Jia Yan personally taught them very important combat skills, and some even came into contact with the core secrets of Yin-Yang Dao. After so many years, Wu Baila has been practicing the skills taught by Jia Yan. It can't be said to be quite amazing, but she has definitely made great progress. This is why Jia Yan values Wu Baila so much. The subsequent further corrosion of the inner world cannot be separated from the existence of such a sample. Others haven't had much time to practice Yin and Yang Dao, but Wu Baila has been practicing it for nearly 100 years. The power of the formation was actually integrated into Wu Baila's body at this time. Next, follow my instructions and cultivate this power. Jia Yan threw down a book and asked Wu Baila to study it. Yes. Wu Baila was pitiful, weak, and helpless, so she had no choice but to pick up the specially enlarged and printed book, go to her training area, and study in silence. This area is on the right track, and the Xiancheng area is like an iron bucket. What is the progress of the real body now? Jia Yan returned to his training place, took out a piece of illusory Taoist heart, breathed it into his mouth and practiced, feeling ripples in his heart. In fact, in this Xiancheng area, to be honest, it is his clone's turn to be the real person in charge. Yes, even if the Black God clone is just a clone, it is now entrusted with important responsibilities. Sitting in Xiancheng, it's not that this clone is strong enough to fight against a truly powerful existence. In fact, now that several decades have passed, the subspace in this area of Xiancheng has allowed the Black God's clone to come and go freely, and can even fight like his real body. If there are some masters, even if the clone can't fight, with the help of countless technological weapons and the various back UPS left behind by the real body, I am afraid it will be able to resist or even repel it. As for Jia Yan himself, the waves are rough. Large swaths of waves were surging between the sky and the earth. Countless life forms are waiting on the beach for the huge figure flying from far away in the sky. Coming soon, coming soon. A life form that was more than 10,000 kilometers tall, looked like a giant, but had double fins, shouted happily in a low voice. Coming. The ship is here and we can leave soon. The crowd was bustling, and soon they looked at the giant ship on the horizon and let out a loud roar. However, at this moment, the roar of thousands of troops and horses came from the ground behind them, and endless momentum came from the distance. As the momentum came, a group of people riding on huge beasts suddenly appeared on the high mountains behind them, covered with blood. A heavily armed giant wearing armor. Reborn as an interstellar giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3218. Some of these giant life forms are giants, some are monsters with 4 arms and legs, and some are like octopuses. But without exception, they all have armor, and their statures are even more exaggerated, reaching around 10,000 kilometers. Rumble, rumble. 300 to 400 giants riding monsters on the top of the mountain charge towards the bustling crowd on the coast. The troll army is coming. Run away. It's such a critical moment, why? We're obviously about to board a sea ship, and I won't give in. I saw the first batch of charging giant monsters colliding with various groups of creatures rushing towards the coast. Some powerful people have already fled their original places, and those who are really caught up belong to the middle and lower levels of strength. These cavalry raised various weapons in their hands. These weapons were also unique to the other world. Because of the unique molecular structure and extremely reliable arrangement of molecular atoms, the giants could wield them as much as they wanted. Poof! The waist knife raised high was chopped down, and the head rolled. The scene of smoke and blood mixed with arrows and flowers instantly transformed into a battlefield scene of blood and flesh flying everywhere. The supergiant machine flying in the distance actually turned around and left when seeing the scene from a distance. The ship is gone. I've been waiting for the results for 3 whole months, why? We can still pick you up, why did you leave? Why does God want to destroy me? Puff. With the sword in his hand, a 10,000-kilometer giant riding on the torso of a giant monster, with towering muscles, laughed unscrupulously, you still want to escape? Just stay and be a slave of my giant country. The money must be kept, and the life you are waiting for must also be kept. The knights on high horses passed through the pass and killed a large number of people left on the shore. There was no one enemy. Is this the cavalry of the giant country running rampant in this island country? It is indeed no small matter. Among countless fleeing life forms, there are a few very inconspicuous existences. They each watched the situation indifferently. Except for the ones with normal body shapes, one of them is quite unique because he is smaller than ordinary intelligent people. It is only 60 kilometers long, far away from the general public who can travel thousands of kilometers at every turn, and even more like an ant compared to those giants who are thousands of kilometers long. But his size didn't make him any more uneasy. He is Jia Yan's true form. Now I can only feel a lot of emotions. In this overseas land, the forces similar to the imperial dynasty are really as vast as smoke and as numerous as stars. Several people around him looked at him with a smile. Well, Your Excellency, Jia Yan heard us right, coming to the land of the dynasty is just a drop in the ocean compared to the outer sea. The external environment is truly complex. You can also see more knowledge. Well, that's right, but everyone, given the current situation, don't we need to evacuate? This group of cavalry is not easy to deal with. Jia Yan looked at the charging giant cavalry in front of him with a deliberately worried expression. Haha, Your Excellency, Jia Yan is overly worried. People like us from the mainland are quite protected when we come to this open sea. Even ordinary people only need to report the location of their power, and there is no doubt that they will be treated well. What's more, our strength is already transcendent. Then we'll see. Jia Yan seemed to have thought of something, and smiled as he waited to see the fooling around of these people. At this time, a group of giant cavalry was charging. They killed people when they saw them, using the barrel of a cavalry lance accurately. The dead bodies were strung together on the tip of his lance, dripping with blood and incomparably human. There are people here who are not afraid of death. Rush. There were about 20 cavalry in this group. When they saw Jia Yan's group of about 5 or 6 people, they looked unafraid. Instead of being frightened and suspicious, they rushed over with bloodthirsty. They are the cavalry of a new force on this island. They originally lived in the desert area in the north of this island. Because of their living environment, they have developed extremely strong physiques and horseback riding skills. Over the past few hundred years, they have developed. After showing off his racial skills, he fought out from the northern desert, fought his way through several major countries, and almost ruled the entire island. They are extremely arrogant, and they dare to rush forward when they see strong men. Because of their unique cavalry tactics, they can win every time they see strong men. Stop, we are from the outer sea continent. Do you want to make an enemy of our mainland forces? Outer sea continent. The eyes of the leading cavalryman flashed. The next moment, he suddenly became ferocious. The ones who are going to kill are you mainland powerful people. We killed a few last time, all of them were big fat sheep. Fat sheep. Kill. All 20 knights roared wildly, their eyes full of cruelty. The strong man here was really embarrassed by being choked. Your Excellency Jia Yan, let us handle this matter. It seems that our mainland forces have not dealt with this huge country. They don't know how powerful we are. Let them see it. Everyone please excuse me. Jia Yan smiled and took a few steps back to show humility. How dare you not run away? Those giant cavalrymen came and went like the wind, and they were already in front of them. Some people raised the sword and knocked it down directly. Just barbarians. A strong man in Jia Yan's team snorted and stretched out his hand. An extremely bright light bloomed in his hand. He entered a state of hypocrisy. The blade fell into the air, but the rider behind the sword himself was fierce. A bloody flower bloomed and fell down from the horse. The light of a grain of rice dares to compete for its glory? Another master stepped forward with a smile, bumping left and right as he was surrounded by several riders, as if strolling in a garden. After passing through the group of riders, their eyes were dull, and then they fell to the ground with their eyes losing their luster. Sharp. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 riders fell completely dead, and Jia Yan couldn't help but praise them. You must know that more than half of these 20-odd riders are giant biological races with a height of more than 10,000 kilometers, and the other half must be 8,000 kilometers high. Riding on a beast that is even larger than them, the momentum is not that high. Masters at the division level simply don't dare to take it hard. But the 5 people around him are the top masters of their respective arts, killing enemies in a joke. Your Excellency Jia Yan is joking. Your Excellency's strength is not inferior to mine at all, but it is a joke for you. Where there? Jia Yan smiled and shook his head. In the distance, someone from the group of cavalry had discovered Danga here, and someone with a solemn expression immediately went to the leader to inform him. Strong. The leader of the cavalry team also turned serious. In this world, after all, it is still a world where the strong are respected. Even the giant countries that have taken a different approach still have natural respect and offer the strong. In an instant, a large number of cavalry surrounded them in a fan shape, ignoring even the fleeing people waiting for the ship on other coasts. Who are you? Are you a strong man from the sea country? The leaders shouted to the side. Under the threat of a group of majestic tall horses, the mere 6 people here seemed to pose no threat at all, like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. However, those who are careful can find that these people are not afraid, and their expressions do not change much. No, we, the cavalry from the mainland power, the giant country, you sent the cavalry to chase down the powerful people from our mainland power. Do you want to become our enemy? Mainland power. The expression of the leader of the cavalry changed drastically. He carefully looked at the group of masters in front of him, especially one of them, and after a long time, he nodded. I'm sorry. I didn't know that I was a visitor from the section. On behalf of Daijokyo, I would like to express my sincere apologies to you and others. If you are free, you might as well go to my camp as a guest. There will be a beautiful woman to serve you. No need, I just hope that Your Excellency, the leader, will not use the sword too much when you see the residents of my mainland power. If our power and other forces find out, the huge country will be destroyed in an instant. Yes. Xiao's Huai must obey the order. Soon, this group of giant cavalry left at a distance respectfully, and did not dare to make too much noise. Jia Yan watched the whole process behind his back and felt his eyes were opened. You are indeed from the Shang sect, and your status is truly respected in the sea area. Your Excellency Jia Yan is very complimentary, but this area is already close to our mainland. Unlike the Imperial Island, which is far away, our reputation here is still sufficient. Jia Yan nodded. He has seen it all along the way. In fact, he had already traveled with these 5 people, and after deliberately traveling through the teleportation array for a certain distance, at Jia Yan's strong request, everyone came to visit the local island before continuing on their way. At this point, they had just traveled from the Imperial Island for less than half a month. In half a month, what Jia Yan saw and heard was more than he had accumulated in decades in the other world. It was an eye-opener. It is said that reading thousands of books is not as good as traveling thousands of miles. If it hadn't been for your invitation, I wouldn't have had such an eye-opening opportunity. Thank you very much for waiting. Haha, this trade route is maturing day by day. Since it is Your Excellency Jia Yan's request, we will certainly fulfill your wish. For more than half a month before, merchants from mainland forces went to the headquarters of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, escorting a new batch of goods as usual to travel with the subordinates of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. But Jia Yan suddenly asked to go with him, hoping to gain more knowledge. That's why I traveled at this time. After seeing 5 or 6 islands and land, Jia Yan was very sad. Most of these islands are not much different from the dynasty, but there are a few islands, such as the one at your feet. According to the topographic map, it is more than 3 times larger than the area where the dynasty is located. It can be said to be a big island. However, for such a large island, the power that is about to rule the entire island, the big power, is actually as afraid of the people of the mainland power as snakes and scorpions. This shows how prestigious mainland power is on these islands. Presumably, these prestige is definitely not just about their ability to do business. When necessary, this group of mainland power visitors are really good at doing things. According to the map, this place is quite close to the mainland, and it may have been cleansed by these forces from the coast of the mainland. Otherwise, like the imperial dynasty, the tentacles of influence of mainland merchants did not extend that far, and the fear of mainland power would be much reduced. Okay, should I continue to wait for the ship, or should I fly to the next island now and directly use the teleportation array to enter the mainland? Jia Yan said without any hesitation, go to the next island. You can see the scenery of the island. Next, I want to see what the scenery of the mainland is like. One of the strong men accompanying him smiled, I will definitely not disappoint your excellency Jia Yan. There is another person with a unique aura, and he is the strongest among this group of people. He is also the master of Shangzhong who was recognized by the cavalry leader just now. He glanced at Jia Yan seemingly carelessly, and suddenly said with a hint of meaning, I wonder what your excellency Jia Yan wants to do when he goes to our mainland this time. Jia Yan looked at this person and knew that he had a unique aura. He was probably a high-ranking figure in the immortal sect. After thinking about it, Jia Yan said, actually, there is nothing else. It's just that our association's power in the mainland has exploded recently, so I wanted to go and have a look. Maybe in the future, our Chamber of Commerce will focus on the mainland. Oh. Then I'll wait and see. This statement was watertight, and everyone immediately believed it. Moreover, if the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce can regard the mainland as its main trading target, it will be a dream for forces like them. Frequently escorting the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce caravans to and from the Imperial Islands and mainland forces has made several forces a little impatient. Some even propose to overthrow the dynasty directly, otherwise they will be constrained by it every time and have to abide by it. Many terms. However, after considering the strength of the dynasty and how much energy it would take to maintain trade routes after its fall, and weighing the pros and cons, the mainland forces finally gave up on this proposal. After all, it is beyond our reach. If the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce can really focus its main efforts on the mainland, everyone will be happy. Jia Yan and others stood up. Flying towards another small island that is about to border the island, the teleportation array they built is on the island there. Here on the coast of the big island. Only then did a small group of cavalry dare to show up again. Young Marshal. Why don't you send out troops to kill all these bastards? Frequently escorting the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce caravans to and from the Imperial Islands and mainland forces has made several forces a little impatient, and some even he proposed to overthrow the dynasty directly, otherwise he would be constrained by it every time and had to abide by many terms. However, after considering the strength of the dynasty and how much energy it would take to maintain trade routes after its fall, and weighing the pros and cons, the mainland forces finally gave up on this proposal. After all, it is beyond our reach. If the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce can really focus its main efforts on the mainland, everyone will be happy. Jia Yan and others stood up. Flying towards the other small island that is about to border the island, he often escorts the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce caravans to and from the Imperial Island and the mainland forces, which has made several forces a little impatient, and some people even propose to overthrow the dynasty directly. Otherwise, you will be constrained by it every time and have to abide by many terms. However, after considering the strength of the dynasty and how much energy it would take to maintain trade routes after its fall, and weighing the pros and cons, the mainland forces finally gave up on this proposal. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3219. Yes, I understand. The subordinate responded quickly. At the same time, I also thought about how powerful the force must be to destroy even the giant kingdom, the predecessor of their giant country. And that force is even just one of the mainland forces. It is said that it is only a force on the coast of the mainland. So how many such powerful forces are there in the entire continent? Is it even possible that there is a powerful force far more terrifying than the immortal section? I dare not think about it, my scalp goes numb just thinking about it. Today, Jia Yan is also having similar thoughts. In fact, watching along the way, he really felt the astonishing strength of the mainland forces. People who may not have the adventurous gene have already made the decision not to touch the mainland until their strength is insufficient. But he is Jia Yan. He is a complete opportunist, that is, a speculative guy. The more powerful the mainland is, the more it represents in his eyes that it has enough opportunities and opportunities. Nowadays, Jia Yan is becoming more and more skillful in using his Taoist heart. Not only has he made great progress on the road to being a strong man in the universe, but he has also gained a lot in the cultivation level. Yet he had reached another kind of sensory stasis. It is no longer possible to make rapid progress in the imperial area. When Jiju and Chu Xing, who happened to be stationed in the mainland, returned from defense, they mentioned all the things on the edge of the mainland's coast, especially the prosperity and opportunities there, and Jia Yan was instantly tempted. Seniors, please follow me. Another island land, much smaller in area, is ruled by only one country, and this country is also a subordinate force supported by the immortal sect. The entire force can be regarded as a member of the peripheral forces of the immortal sect. Under the leadership of the top leaders of the force, Jia Yan and others set foot in a lush green mountainous area, and then came to the stone forest area where the teleportation formation was located. When the formation was activated, Jia Yan felt some very strange power surrounding him. It is very similar to the Taoist teleportation technique he learned. It involves throwing people into illusion and then forcibly pulling out the figure in the distance to achieve the purpose of teleportation. At first, Jia Yan was very resistant to this method of action, but after trying it a few times himself, he felt that it was no different from the subspace talent, and gradually started to use it more. As for the ultra-long-distance teleportation array, it can be regarded as an infinitely extended version of the teleportation technique. The effect is surprisingly good. In an instant, it can throw people hundreds of millions or even billions of times farther than ordinary teleportation techniques. But one thing to be careful about is whether someone is trying to frame the teleportation array. Jia Yan believes that at this time, the mainland forces should have no reason to attack him. And he also thought of countermeasures on this point, so he felt quite at ease. The feeling of moha came, and Jia Yan felt that the world in front of him turned upside down and turned into nothingness. Maybe he spent a second in deathly silence, or it seemed like he spent a year. In short, when he regained his clarity, he felt as if he had lived in another world. Feeling lost and distracted, he finally saw the scene in front of him clearly. Another scene of the stone forest that was exactly the same as the teleportation formation. However, unlike other places where the teleportation array was sparsely populated, at the same time they arrived, two other groups of people also appeared in a steady stream from other empty spaces around them. I've met some seniors. It was obvious that the status of the powerful men who led Jia Yan here should not be underestimated in this area, and managers immediately came to salute them. It doesn't matter. This is the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. You should ask someone to get ready for the trip immediately. Our sect will have a big banquet to welcome you. President of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? Ah, I have met the senior president. Please wait a moment, senior. We will prepare the car right away. The person in charge of the teleportation array who came here suddenly cheered up when he heard that the person escorted by several powerful people was actually the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. You know, after the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce appeared, a large number of various products became popular, almost sweeping away fallen leaves in the autumn wind, exerting great influence on the entire coastal area of the continent, and this influence even reached all aspects of people's lives. Now that he saw the president of the Legend Chamber of Commerce in person, he felt very excited. This is the mainland. Yes, this is the mainland. Your Excellency Jia Yan, if you are free, we can go to the nearest sect's headquarters to have a rest, and we can also entertain you. After all, your Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's headquarters is the largest in this area. The city is still about one teleportation array away. Okay then, I'll trouble you all. Jia Yan agreed with a smile. During his trip, he would inevitably have to deal with local forces, and even Jia Yan had similar thoughts. How can he expand his network of contacts and get benefits if he doesn't interact more with local powerful people? He didn't come here to take charge. The dynasty still couldn't do without him, and he could only serve as the car captain alone in the passage, so he hadn't been in the mainland and island areas for a long time. Everyone was overjoyed. Dealing well with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has now become the consensus of forces in the coastal areas of the entire continent. Since annexation is impossible, let the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce give more benefits with benefits. They are afraid that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will be unhappy and reduce the supply of goods to the mainland. For decades, this group of mainland power executives have long been aware of this. Night. Dry. I have long heard that the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is a big man who is upright and upright. Now what I have seen is that he is indeed a man of extraordinary ability. Among a group of behemoths, there is an extremely small creature like Jia Yan, but each of these behemoths is smiling, and there is even a hint of flattery. Jia Yan dealt with these guys calmly. At the banquet in front of him, except for a few other power masters who escorted him, the others were all senior officials of the local force Zaolan sect that protected the teleportation array. The Zaolan sect is just a small force. If it had not been able to protect the teleportation formation, it might have been annexed by other major forces. Therefore, from Jia Yan's perspective, their senior leaders are only at the level of a few masters. The other strong men are not at the level of masters at all, and at most are at the level of sub-masters. There is a large group of people, but there is not much to pay attention to. Jia Yan did not regard this matter as the norm in the mainland region. On the contrary, he was more vigilant. Even the force stationed in the teleportation array is so terrifying, with several masters, and the inheritance seems to be far more complete and systematic than the strong ones from the dynasty. It shows that the mainland region deserves its reputation. He wants to be more low-key. I heard that President Jia Yan's hometown is an outer land called the Milky Way, right? Yes, the Milky Way is my hometown, but after listening to what Xiantai said, do you also have some understanding of the outer land where we live? The person who was talking to Jia Yan was the leader of the Zaolan sect and the strongest one. He was probably not much weaker than the top masters from the dynasty. Oh? Didn't those friends mention it to the president on the way when they came? The faction leader looked at the silent escorts on the side with some surprise, thought for a moment and then laughed. This matter is in the mainland area. It's not a secret. Since the president asked about it, I will tell you that in fact, in our mainland, there are not a few people from outside areas like you, the president. It can even be said that the number is extremely large, but they are all unlike you, the president. You have the ability to travel between two worlds. In other words, they cannot bring any products, most of them are not strong enough, and they end up becoming the research objects of certain forces. These words blurted out, but in Jia Yan's ears, they were a bit harsh. In this way, there are also many mistaken intruders in the mainland area, probably also beings from other galaxies in the universe. But the way they treat those from the outer realm is not as polite as the people from the Milky Way galaxy, they just treat them as research objects. Is this some kind of threat, or is it just as the leader of the Zaolan faction said, he just mentioned it casually? Jia Yan's mind was racing with thoughts, but it didn't affect his expression of calmness, and he felt comfortable talking to these senior executives. After a dinner, you feel at home. On the second day, Jia Yan, who was invited, visited the disciple training of Zaolan sect. It was said to be training, but in Jia Yan's opinion, it was some kind of display of force similar to a military parade. The disciples were united in body shape, bathing in the spring breeze in the place where they performed martial arts, showing their martial arts foundation. Their moves were exactly the same, and they were very skilled in making the wind and thunder surge. Jia Yan felt it and found that it was indeed the mainland region. Even the small faction guarding the teleportation array also had joint attack tactics. I am afraid that this group of disciples who are not at the level of Enter Deo can join forces to fight against a subdivision master. And if the disciples have such means, wouldn't other masters of the Zaolan sect who are teachers not have similar means? It will only get stronger. No wonder, the powerful people in the mainland have no fear of Jia Yan and his fellow galactic forces. In fact, from their perspective, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, or the entire galaxy behind the Chamber of Commerce, is a bit unsightly. If a war really breaks out, they are not afraid. Of course, they are not afraid, and Jia Yan is even less afraid. It hasn't reached that point yet, and if a war is really going to start, according to the information Jia Yan knows now, there is no clear appearance of the so-called supermaster among these large forces, that is, a strong man above the division level. In the Milky Way, a supermaster might be similar to a galaxy late-stage powerhouse. It's hard to say whether he can reach the level of a supreme senior. Since several forces do not have such masters, it is impossible for them to compete with the Milky Way. No matter how strong he is just a lower-level territory lord similar to Jia Yan. As long as the two sides were still friendly, Jia Yan didn't believe they would take action. The next day, Jia Yan left the Zaolan sect with several escorts. When the leader of the sect said goodbye to Jia Yan, he very generously requested several Galaxy Chamber of Commerce supplies that the Zaolan sect urgently needed, and Jia Yan also generously agreed. These materials are no longer just the original products of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The production machines in Xiancheng can already process them, so the quantities are large and sufficient. President Jia Yan, this Zaolan faction is just a weak member of our mainland coastal alliance. You have met for a day, how do you feel? An escort who reached the master level came to Jia Yan with a smile and asked with a smile while flying. As expected, it is indeed a continental force with vast territory and abundant resources. The Zaolan sect is probably one of the top forces in the imperial dynasty, but its status here does not seem to be high. That's natural. The Zaolan sect is just one of the peripheral forces of our immortal section. Jia Yan asked, what about the power of your sect? The other party showed great pride and said, when it comes to the immortal sect, it is naturally not comparable to the Zaolan section. The comparison between the two is like the contrast between the bright moon and the fluorescent light of a candle. And even though our immortal sect is among the coastal forces in this area, it is also a top-level force, and the leader of this alliance of forces doing business with your Chamber of Commerce is our immortal section. I see. Jia Yan already knew this basic information. But seeing is believing. The power of the immortal sect here is probably just like the rumors. It is like the weight of Mount Tai, and it is difficult for other surrounding forces to compete with it. They returned to the teleportation formation. Smelling the moist smell of the coast, Jia Yan nodded and activated the teleportation array. When he closed his eyes and opened them again, the whole world was completely new. You can hardly smell the sea air anymore. You know, the sea in the world here is also vast and boundless. Even on an island as big as the Imperial Dynasty, you can smell the sea everywhere. But this time when the teleportation array came down, the sea air could no longer be smelled. It could be seen that this teleportation was no closer than the previous teleportation. Another group of people came to greet him. But Jia Yan even waited for a subordinate from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. It means that the destination this time is about to arrive. Everyone chatted for a while, and some of the forces that had a presence nearby wanted to invite Jia Yan to be a guest, but Jia Yan declined because he wanted to visit his own Chamber of Commerce branch first. After a while, Jia Yan and the subordinates of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's power branch came out of the formation. What is different from before is that when you step out, you will see a large bustling street scene. Jia Yan was a little confused. Master Jia Yan, this area was not so prosperous before our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was stationed, but after we stationed not far away, a large number of forces were stationed, and people heard the news and came to. Now decades have passed and it has long become an urban area. The subordinate was quite clever. Seeing that Jia Yan was a little surprised, he answered aloud. Aren't they afraid that the formation will go wrong and cause a lot of casualties? Jia Yan asked. The teleporters in this world are easy to use, but they have a very huge flaw, that is, accidents often occur during maintenance, and explosions that kill people are common. If there are some big explosions, large tracts of nearby mountains and forests will be blown up. Destruction is not something that has never happened. This group of people dare to come here to seek life, which means they are not afraid of death. In order to survive, the general public has no choice, the subordinate said with emotion. Jia Yan nodded non-committally and followed his subordinates forward. During the process, Jia Yan learned that the area that was gradually forming was called Galaxy Chamber of Commerce Street. There were a wide variety of products on the street, many of which were small products from the imperial dynasty, and there were even more knock-off products belonging to local imitators. It's a new volume. Thank you all for your support so far. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3220. This kind of thing cannot be prevented. But they cannot imitate perfectly. As long as the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce keeps mastering the core production technology and crushes it with its absolutely superior product quality and product technology, then no force in the world can escape this kind of trade crushing. Some of these big forces must have seen the ambitions of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, but this cannot hinder the development of the entire incident. Just like in the previous regions, the former great powers relied on more advanced technology to rule most of the entire planet. Countries with insufficient technology were not without resistance, but in the face of the irresistible advanced technology and production capacity, their resistance was not no effect at all. If the world wants to resist the advancement of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, there are only two ways. First, when technology and production capacity catch up, there must be at least a certain degree of substitutability, otherwise it will be impossible to resist the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The second is to eliminate the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce from the physical level, but are they willing to bring high-value items brought by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, or even enough resources to strengthen the strong? It is obvious that in today's inner world, even this coastal area that prides itself on being powerful cannot resist this temptation. The technological productivity gap is too far. Jia Yan, you are here. The first star greeted the Chamber of Commerce where it was now stationed on the mainland. Today's Chuxing, in Jia Yan's opinion, has made great progress in strength, and he has been nourished by many Taoist fruits, and his personal demeanor also reveals a certain freedom and ease. This is quite different from Jia Yan's impulsive impression so far. Of course, strong people are changeable. They can change their character and temper according to their status, and even their entire personality can change from time to time like a barometer. Brother Chu Xing, thank you for your hard work. Jia Yan smiled and greeted him. The two entered the resident building. Jia Yan looked around and soon felt a little sad. This is not a branch. The whole building is more than 10 times larger than the building at the headquarters. Even the influence goes beyond this. The resident branch on the mainland was built in an inaccessible and not very prosperous place. The subsequent building complexes were all built because of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which made the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce stand out from the crowd, with both area and a graceful and luxurious atmosphere. Hee. This is just the result of a momentary passion between Brother Jikiao and I. It's flashy, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about it, but I want to. A building like this must have cost the Chamber of Commerce a lot of money at least. Jia Yan almost rolled his eyes on the spot. But stationed here really requires a certain amount of face. Otherwise, it would be impossible to suppress so many powerful forces. The building is approximately 10 million kilometers in length and breadth, which is approximately 1/4 of the distance from the Earth to the Sun. Even if it is thrown into this huge inner world, it is still a giant building complex covering a relatively large area. There are transaction rooms, exchange offices, dispute resolution departments, commerce departments, legal advisory offices, product research and development departments, product development departments, etc. Release point. Wait, etc. There is a dazzling array of things to see. Staff from the Milky Way galaxy have already settled here. There are about tens of thousands of people. It is very similar to the station in the Imperial Dynasty. Because the personnel are not big, they can do a lot of things within these 10 million kilometers, which is almost equivalent to countless places the size of the Earth. Even if they regard this place as another world, it's too small. At this time, more than 10,000 people, except those who were necessary, gathered at the gate to welcome Jia Yan. They shouted in unison, "I've met the president." "No courtesy, please go and do your own business." "I'm sorry for disturbing your work." Jia Yan agreed with a smile. The crowd gradually dispersed. But the main workers still stayed, including Huasiang, the strongest person under his command who was sent by Jia Yan himself. The original divine emperor of the great realm. In fact, she is still the god emperor now. Because when Jia Yan went to the main goddess, the other party made a request after thinking hard for a while, that is, the goddess emperor should continue to serve as the god emperor of the spiritual realm, but this position is no longer the internal god emperor, but like the internal god emperor. Temporary job is average. Huasiang still has a lot of affection for the realm of gods, and she accepted this position without hesitation, so she became a double-duty person. "Huasiang, I'm not good at introductions, so I'll let you introduce me to your family." "Yes, thank you Lord Shuxing." Huasiang bowed respectfully to Chu Xing. Chu Xing and Jia Yan entered a larger building again. The two parties conducted certain work handovers and consultations, and then left in a hurry. In fact, he had just handed over Jiqiao a few years ago. At this time, he seemed to be blind. Being able to tell so many things to Jia Yan was a sign of hard work. "Tell me, what's the actual situation here?" Jia Yan looked at his current confidant and subordinate Huasiang. Although this person holds the position of two major forces and may not be as loyal as Leda, her strength is real, and Jia Yan can be considered trustworthy in her employment. "We, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, have established a firm foothold in the coastal areas of this continent, but it is different from the liveliness it seems on the surface. From my perspective, there are still greater risks here." Huasiang talked honestly. "Tell me." "It's like this. The area on the mainland is really too big. It's said to be a coastal area, but this area is comparable to tens of thousands of imperial islands. No matter how far away you are, only a few words can be heard because it's too far away. When the rumors come here, they are no longer so accurate. Instead, they seem like myths and legends, and even the strong ones are so full that they want to see how far they can go." Jia Yan nodded. He had expected this situation for a long time. He was generally prepared for how big the outside world was. Having met the four major superstars, no matter what he does, he will never feel out of place. He even seriously doubted that even though the world outside seemed big, it wouldn't be much bigger than a four-star star. After all, each of the four giant stars has a diameter of 1 light-year, or 9,460 billion kilometers, and the inner world has only gone so far. Unless he gets accurate figures, he doesn't believe there is anything bigger than the four biggest stars. Of course, if the continent under your feet is not actually the only one in the world, then you need to think carefully. So, our Chamber of Commerce is supported by forces in nearby areas, but it is by no means as stable as Mount Tai. As far as I know, Many forces in this known area are mainly engaged in business. In another distant area, there are people who are eyeing this Chamber of Commerce and have recently sent a lot of people over to investigate the truth. It seems that there are evil intentions. Oh, why didn't those forces that said they would protect our Chamber of Commerce take any action? Jia Yan asked. They are just talking. We and the caravan of forces that are coming are just businessmen. If there is a conflict between the two parties, wouldn't it be them, the guests, who ultimately benefit? That's it, it's a very simple reason. It's just that Jia Yan believes that no matter how huge the other party's business power is, it can't match the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in terms of production capacity and product added value. This is the confidence that comes from the world of technology. Unless the other party has also received the blessing of some technology. And this is possible, but it is unlikely to obtain too powerful technology, otherwise the world in front of them now would not be primitive and backward like this. There is true potential for technological development, and it has been developed long ago. After all, no matter how powerful the indigenous people here are, it is the instinct of living beings to yearn for the comfortable life of technology. They cannot give up a more comfortable life and just come here to drink blood. Just look at their Galaxy Chamber of Commerce products, and it can be seen that those lifestyle products are selling better and better. People in this world are not stupid. Did they give us a formal note? I submitted my greetings a few days ago, but Master Chuxing has not yet received them. Okay, I'll meet this force tomorrow. Is there anything else? Yes, there is, but it's just a matter of details. For example, many of the physical laws in this area are even different from those in the dynasty. Many of our commercial products from the dynasty are actually different when placed here. It has the disadvantage of not being very stable, and there are also currency products and financial products, where it is difficult to open a gap, and several forces have instinctively banned some of our technologies and do not allow us to spread. Huaxiang first followed Ji Qi and came to work at the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's mainland station. Therefore, we are familiar with the many problems, shortcomings, and difficult to solve situations here. Okay, I will handle some of these matters for you when I have time here. After all, as the president, I have the strength and status to handle these situations. That's great. Otherwise Lord Chuxing would also have a headache with several major problems. Chu Xing's strength is obvious to all. But like Ji Qi, he was said to be at most a vice president, and was not allowed to deal with major situations to a large extent. In addition, they were already aloof from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and did not want to take risks that would bear major responsibilities. If Jia Yan does not come in person, I am afraid that this place will slowly become rigid, and it will be difficult to develop quickly no matter how good the prospects are. Fortunately, Jia Yan is here. Ha ha ha, is this the rumored president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? He is indeed extraordinary. Ha ha, I've met Boss Ye, and I know your name like a thunderbolt. Please sit down. The next day, Jia Yan met with the caravan force that had a conflict with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The two sides chatted happily with smiles on their faces. They are all businessmen. On the surface, there is no sign of any offense, but privately everyone knows that the other party's forces are eager to burn down the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Jia Yan won't give him a chance. It is impossible for the local forces to give this kind of opportunity. If they drive away the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, there will be no alternative purchase solutions for many unique products. Your Excellency, President, let me get straight to the point. Your Chamber of Commerce has been invading the interests of me and my friends in the past 10 years, so we want to tell your Chamber of Commerce that this benefit cannot be exclusive to your family. The other person smiled like a Maitreya Buddha, but the human eyes that occasionally appeared shone with a cold light. This should also be a master. The boss of the industry is joking. This Chamber of Commerce is just a force from out of town. When it comes to products, it can't be compared to you who have been doing business locally. Don't steal your business. We just hope that you won't be here just collapse in the cracks. Jia Yan laughed. Your Excellency Jia Yan, it would be a bit hypocritical to say such things again. You are aliens from outside the world, right? We also admire the aliens from outside the world very much. Unfortunately, those aliens from outside the world that we have obtained here and there are not at all. We can't let outside things be used here, and say that the rules are different. Alas, I didn't expect that they have been regarded as products of myths and legends by me. Now they really show up in your Chamber of Commerce. I was shocked for several days and couldn't sleep well. I feel that. So, I feel inferior to the products of your Chamber of Commerce, but you can't take away our living space just because of these. Although we are just weak businessmen, we still have some powerful. As he said this, the industry boss had a cold look in his eyes. Jia Yan knew that this guy was definitely not an easy person to be selected as a meeting participant. He must have felt that even if the Chamber of Commerce took action, he would still be able to escape and even crush the entire audience. This guy is no ordinary businessman. Jia Yan also felt a sense of threat from this person similar to that of the founder of the dynasty. He sighed subconsciously. This continent is really extremely tyrannical. The masters of several major forces escorted him before, allowing him to see the background of these forces. Now, a strong man casually coming by the roadside gave him such a big surprise. Boss, yes, words are wrong. Jia Yan sorted out his words, and said without being affected by threats or pressure, businessmen, you can't do business unless you make a profit, and since your business group is still running this business now, the business routes nearby show that there are still benefits to be gained here. Moreover, I did some research last night and found that many of the products of your business group and our Chamber of Commerce not only have no conflicts, but even have many complementarities. You say, if the cement products I sell are paired with the luxurious wood from your Chamber of Commerce, will they complement each other? There are many such examples, but no one in your Chamber of Commerce or this Chamber of Commerce thought about it before. Just do it. The Maitreya Buddha-like body of the business owner moved slightly. He thought about it, then showed a slight look of surprise. President Jia Yan, you are a man of eloquent words. You can make my heart move with just one sentence. Jia Yan couldn't help but laugh and said, it's not that the president is clever, but what I said is reasonable. You are also a businessman. How can you be swayed by other people's words? In fact, I roughly understand your purpose of coming here. It is nothing more than profit. Dispute, but, if instead of having a conflict of interest between us, on the contrary, if we can join forces to create greater business opportunities, wouldn't we be not only enemies, but friends? For example, what I just said, for example, we actually have many opportunities for cooperation. It is better to put aside our prejudices for the time being and let the staff of both parties discuss it carefully. When we go out to do business, peace is the most important thing. If something really conflicts with your business in our Chamber of Commerce, we can also change the interests of the group. Do you think, between fighting and making money together, is it better to choose making money? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3221. Maitreya laughed heartily, pointed at Jia Yan and shook his head. What a great president, Jia Yan, no wonder you can become the leader of such a force. Your words and courage are both top-notch. Okay, I will trust you once, and I will trust you in a few days if I send someone here to ask for advice. If there is an opportunity to cooperate, I will naturally advise those friends to say goodbye. It's easy to leave without seeing him off. Jia Yan smiled and sent this difficult person away. Hua Xiang was watching the whole process, and Chu Xing was hidden in the curtain behind her. Both of them sighed. Jia Yan is now in business. Not to mention other abilities, at least his ability to deceive has skyrocketed. Jia Yan himself is weird. He is an old Iron Man who often fights with others when his blood boils. Now he has only been in business for a few years and has turned into a smooth and sophisticated profiteer. But of course he also knew that he didn't really mean it. When they just had a disagreement, he could beat the hell out of the other person. Okay, such a big thing has been settled. Today, several major forces are hosting a banquet to welcome me. If you are interested, why don't you come with me? Follow the order. Hua Xiang nodded honestly. Chu Xing, who was behind the door curtain, opened the door curtain and entered, glanced at Jia Yan with a smile, and responded with a smile. Just now, Your Excellency, Jia Yan's chi has leaked out, which makes me feel a bit. He is indeed a peerless genius who has achieved my level in more than 100 years. In the past few decades, I am afraid that Ji Jiao and I have been far behind by Your Excellency. Come on, since President Jia Yan has such strength, I dare to accompany you to the Dragon's Pond and Tiger's Den, not to mention a banquet. Jia Yan was greatly relieved, with a smile flashing in his mosquito eyes. Brother Chuxing said this is too much. Now we have been waiting for cooperation for more than a year or two. If we talk about it anymore, we will be divided. Since there is yaxing, then let's take a walk. Jia Yan led the two of them and flew out of this huge mainland base of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. As for Chuxing's seemingly revealing words, believe it or not, SB has already said it. The older a top player is, the better he is at the game. Can you believe that 1 second he is still a naive person, and the next second he becomes a kind, courteous and knowledgeable person? In this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, for the time being, there are still 3 masters at the level of Big Boss, fighting openly and secretly. Many people began to take sides. After all, decades had passed and the two Jiji Xing had begun to gain a firm foothold in the trade area. Jia Yan did not use strength to crush the two of them, and everyone noticed something, so they all followed their own interests and tied themselves deeply with one of the 3. I've met President Jia Yan and Vice President Chuxing. With all their virtues and abilities, I can actually invite them both here today. Excuse me. We, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, are the ones who are lucky enough to have the respect of so many friends in front of us. How could we be so virtuous? Haha, today we only talk about romance, not business, please. Please. Don't talk about business. The 2 senior executives of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce were led to the newly built largest restaurant in the trading area. The guests from several powerful forces came to discuss business. Now that Your Excellency Jia Yan has personally come to the coast of our mainland, what do you think of our area? The people are outstanding, the bells and spirits are beautiful, they are so much better than the Imperial Island. As soon as they sat down and agreed not to talk about official business, they began to gossip. Oh, how does it compare to your hometown? The beauty of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, known as the Huaxiang Ferry, was completely ignored. In this situation, Huaxiang, even as the strongest person under Jia Yan, was just a supporting role. Every expert present has reached the guru level. Looking around, there are more than 20 people, all of them at the guru level. This few people alone are enough to turn the dynasty upside down. What's more, there must be differences in strength among them. Even Jia Yan can't guarantee whether he can win against so many masters. Escape is definitely possible. Without certain means of self-protection, it would be impossible for Jia Yan to take risks and go to the coastal areas of the mainland. It's hard to compare. You guys from the Bai dynasty should know our universe better. The 2 sides are not in the same system. They are so different that they are naturally incomparable. Several guests looked at each other blankly. So, President, the galaxy where you are located should be a place with great strength. I just don't know if there are any supermaster level experts. Jia Yan pretended to be mysterious and said, I'm not afraid of your ridicule. I don't know about it, but I think it must be there. Let's put it this way, there are 4 giant stars in our galaxy, each one is vast and boundless, and it does not seem to be naturally formed. Should be created by predecessors who are superior to us, but I don't know if they are at the same level as your so-called supermasters. Jia Yan's tongue blooms like a lotus. He really doesn't know whether the supermaster has reached the level of the masters in the Milky Way galaxy. He didn't even know if the lower levels of the Milky Way were at the same level as the so-called galaxy peak. Masters who had reached this level were really rare. He had only seen one supreme being. It only exists in mythical and legendary records. The reason for today's dialogue is actually very simple, that is, everyone brings out their own trump cards and possible backers to see who has the best. If they can't compete, their momentum will automatically be weakened. From this point of view alone, Jia Yan is not inferior at all. President Jia Yan's words make me have some doubts as certain guests stood up and said, I have no doubt that there are powerful enough masters in the galaxy, and they may even be comparable to several supermasters on my coast, but if you say that there are extremely vast planets in your galaxy, I disagree with this. I am actually a person who loves the universe extremely. I have studied a lot of information in my life, and I have also talked with several people from outer lands. We have communicated with each other, but have no idea what kind of huge planets can be born in those starry sky places like yours. Wouldn't a planet as big as the restaurant where we are, be called vast by you? He smiled contemptuously. Speaking of strength, he truly believes that there are strong people in the galaxy, and Jia Yan is a good example. But other than that, he didn't believe a word Jia Yan said. Especially the statement about the vast planet, which he completely despised. These guests asked him to come to meet Jia Yan, just waiting for this, because his understanding of the outside world is the most profound among everyone present. In fact, it is not love, but because the family of this strong man in his early years was killed by a master from the outside world. Although the master from the outside world was killed by the local master in the end, he also learned from this. I have a grudge against all the people from the outer territory. Over the years, I have personally beheaded and executed countless powerful people from the outer territory. Because of this, the understanding of the outer world goes beyond that of ordinary people in the inner world. Oh! It seems that my childhood friend still knows a lot about the universe, but there are some things that are just smoke and mirrors if you don't experience them personally or witness them with your own eyes. You just rely on word of mouth. Jia Yan stood face to face with this man and began to preach, the 4 giant stars I left are not natural planets. If they were natural planets, as you said, there would not be many larger than this restaurant. But they are artificial. The 4 giant stars, without exception, have a diameter of 946 billion kilometers, and each one is only larger or smaller. You can convert the measurements here to know how huge they are. 946 billion kilometers. In an instant, many powerful people from the inner world present felt their scalps go numb. The calculation ability of the strong is extremely strong, and the same is true for the people in the other world. They have long learned the unified measurement method of the outside world from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. When they convert it from this, they can't help but secretly smack their lips. Hundreds of billions of kilometers is nothing in their eyes, but when it reaches 100 billion, even a relatively far distance, a trillion miles, they feel extremely far away, a road that may not be completed in a lifetime, and 100,000 miles 100 million. Is the mainland that big? Or is the entire world beneath their feet 10 trillion kilometers long? Humph. There is no basis for what you say. I don't believe it anyway. When the guy saw Jia Yan telling the data, he suddenly didn't believe it at all. Jia Yan couldn't produce any evidence anyway. Everyone, in the past, I really couldn't argue. But things are different today. Our Chamber of Commerce has launched a new product. This product is called mobile phone. Come and take a look at this thing. It is our Chamber of Commerce that fits your world. The laws of physics and the latest technological products newly developed will now show you the appearance of our 4 planets. Jia Yan believes that they don't know what computer CG technology is. Anyway, he opened a device in his hand, and a quite ancient and primitive holographic screen was projected on the spot. The strong men felt they fell into an illusion. The world in front of them turned upside down, and they saw a vast starry sky. In this world, Jia Yan pointed to a huge planet in the distance and said, "That planet is called the North Superstar. It was also the first giant star that my president visited. Now let everyone realize how huge it is." Jiantu quickly zoomed in under Jia Yan's control, and then the planet seemed to expand rapidly, and then, covered the sky and the sun. Everyone's breathing almost stopped, and they were shocked by this amazing and terrifying huge planet. Many of the people present were creatures that were 10,000 kilometers in size, but under the backdrop of the superstar, they still looked like ants. President Jia Yan, I wonder if there are existences like me on this planet. According to the laws of biology, since the planet is large, the possibility of developing into a supergiant life form is also extremely high. Jia Yan smiled and shook his head. The facts are completely opposite. The life forms on this planet are suppressed by the strength left by the top master. To enter it, you must compress your body and put your body under pressure. It has become extremely small, and I am afraid that any strong person on that planet would have a hard time reaching the 100-meter figure in our galaxy. Of course, the plant system must be excluded. 100 meters. This is a number that is quite unfamiliar to the powerful people in the world. Until someone reacts, shouldn't this be the micron level number that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce told them? Real or fake? Jia Yan was a super small powerhouse with a size of 60 kilometers, and they all felt extremely shocked and surprised. But when you enter that planet, according to Jia Yan, you will be crushed to less than 100 meters by the majesty of the top powerhouse. This, then, who is the top master who created this kind of planet? We don't know either. We only know that the 4 giant breaths like the North Star have been standing for a long time. The strong men who created them are still alive. We don't know if there are other such strong men. Even to me, such a master still belongs to myths and legends. When Jia Yan took back the projection, the eyes of all the powerful people present were filled with intense seriousness. They didn't believe that Jia Yan would deceive them with a false planet. Because strong men have too many means to test the correctness of Jia Yan's words. But what Jia Yan said was true, and the projection of the planet was so lifelike, they generally believed it. However, whether the planet is a planet or not is not the point. The point is, they drew a conclusion from these words: the Milky Way is really such a terrifying existence that it can actually create a giant star of shocking size. Oh no, 4. There are 4 in total. According to Jia Yan, even if he, a top expert, enters, he must shrink, otherwise he will be attacked by the pressure of the planet and either die or be squeezed out. This is just a method left by top masters. So, your galaxy really has masters like super masters. Several people said bitterly. They even felt a little guilty when it came to supermaster. Supermasters are characters who really exist around them. Although they are also unfathomable existences, if you ask these super timers whether they can create that kind of superstar, I believe they will definitely not be able to create it. That's already like a myth. So their attitude became correct. I originally came here to discuss business with Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. You read a book. Soon, an elder from the immortal sect came forward. While eating, drinking, enjoying singing and dancing with Jia Yan, they seemed to casually talk about some business matters. In fact, their request is very simple. That is, can the products of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce be sold to them cheaper? If the production capacity cannot be supplied, they can be produced locally. They have already heard that many of the products of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce can now be produced locally. It's not that no one has thought about copying or borrowing from others, but without exception, without technological equipment, they are completely blind. The technological level gap between the two sides is too big. Let's put it this way, even if Jia Yan really throws a piece of product making equipment to these guys and teaches them how to operate it step by step, they may not be able to learn how to operate it after decades of tinkering. That already involves academic qualifications, experience, and even a certain amount of cultural shock. It is not something that can be learned in a short time. As for the subsequent equipment maintenance, repairs, upgrades and replacement of parts, etc. Forget it, wait until more people in the world have scientific knowledge before starting. Otherwise, Jia Yan doubts whether a local talent can be produced after 1,000 years of training. By then, the daylily will be cold. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3222. Well, you also know that our equipment is difficult to transport in the dynasty. Or rather, even if it is transported, because it is ultra high-tech equipment, there will definitely be a lot of losses on the road. Secondly, the business here is environment, etc., must be evaluated by this Chamber of Commerce before setting up a factory. Secondly, there are too many problems in terms of personnel, funds, and policies. At least as far as the situation that this president has seen in the past few days, it is not possible to set up a factory at this time. Not the most appropriate opportunity to shift production. Jia Yan said, pretending to be embarrassed. Immediately, several people came out and shouted, "President Jia Yan, we can solve this for you." After saying that, the few people who spoke in unison looked at each other awkwardly, and nodded sheepishly, but they were embarrassed, and it was absolutely impossible to give up the benefits of building a factory for the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The spies and staff sent by them had already figured out the business model of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in the Imperial Dynasty. The changes in the entire Xiancheng, the surrounding areas, and even the changes in the entire dynasty were all seen by them. They are also jealous of products that have high quality and quantity and huge price advantages. Listening to this group of guys, each one jumping higher than the rest of them, and giving various guarantees on funds, personnel, policies, and safety, Jia Yan and Chuxing Simu, who looked like an old god next to him, relatively. There was a little joy in the depths of his eyes. Looked. I'm afraid that among the coastal forces on the mainland, there are those who are discerning enough to see through all their mechanisms. But it is a pity that because the world is different and the knowledge is completely different, the experts in this coastal area are not all stupid, but they do not know that the use of excess production capacity dumping and financial colonization has become an old trick in the galaxy. A trick that no one can deceive in the galaxy is thrown here, but it is a good thing that fools put on their lips. There are too many fools and not enough liars. Jia Yan seemed to be quite helpless and reluctantly agreed to the requests of several of them, and the other party was overjoyed and offered various benefits. One master even proposed that 5 master-level masters from their forces come to protect the senior leaders of the Chamber of Commerce. As long as they set up something like a factory immediately. Jia Yan could only appease and agree to these extremely enthusiastic people one by one, and he also acted coyly, making those who were lucky enough to get the opportunity to cooperate, one by one, arrogant, as if they had picked up a big deal. It seems cheap. But they didn't know that Jia Yan was already smiling in private. Correct. President Jia Yan, taking advantage of the strong atmosphere today, I happen to receive a few treasures here. I heard that President Jia Yan is a person who likes to practice rare things. Why don't I lend flowers to the Buddha to see if there are any things that the president likes? Is it a treasure? I am somewhat interested in the rare objects that are abundant in the mainland, so thank you, Sir Chi. After the discussion is over, there will naturally be benefits, and the relationship will be maintained. Under this atmosphere, Jia Yan also reciprocated the favor. He deliberately pulled away the key figures from each branch who came to meet with the forces, walked to the side, and presented some high-end products. According to the intelligence content of each of them, the objects given included training equipment, key materials for weapons, and some were gold, silver, and jewelry. They finally found what they wanted, and everyone showed excitement. For the forces that are so aware of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, it will not take long for them to be willing to go on business and meet with people from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. This will increase the stability of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's connections and power here. Don't underestimate such small details, they can make a difference at certain critical moments. As expected, the host and guest enjoyed themselves. On the way back, Chu Xing nodded with some sigh. Jia Yan, it has to be you. I can do certain things, but I can't do it as well as you. It's not that he can't do favors, but his identity is only the vice president anyway, and many of the people here have nothing to do with him as the vice president, so it's unclear whether they are willing to take orders. But Jia Yan is different. His prestige is so high that everyone who comes here is transported by him. His attitude towards him is like meeting his biological father. Who wouldn't give this strongest man and the boatman the responsibility? Responsible master's face? Unless you want to stay in this world forever and never return to the Milky Way. To put it bluntly, business travelers in the other world, without exception, all want to get ahead and then return to their hometowns for promotion or retirement. So far, I have not seen many people from the Milky Way who really care about the other world permanently. This place is too backward and full of dangers. Without the banner of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the risk of death is extremely high if you fight alone. Lord Jia Yan. Returning to the station, Jia Yan had a secret meeting with Hua Xiang again. Help me pick out the things that are useful for cultivation. I don't want those gold and silver treasures. They will be given out as rewards to the local Chamber of Commerce. You have priority to choose. Thank you, sir. Hua Xiang understands Jia Yan's approach very well. Among the masters of the lower realm masters who have come to the other world, which one is not focused on this place and has the ability to promote? This is the case for Jia Yan, the same is true for Chu Xing, and the same is true for Gigi who was previously transferred back to the Milky Way for cultivation. Jia Yan has only been here for 2 or 3 days, but his harvest is no less than what Ji Jiao has been guarding here for 10 years. After selecting for a while, with the help of Hua Xiang, a close confidant of the guard who had been around for many years, Jia Yan quickly selected a few cultivation items that were also useful for the lower levels of territory lords. The other part, according to Hua Xiang, is not very effective, but Jia Yan also kept it, and God knows if it will help with cultivation. I'll leave these to you. You can pick 3 items by yourself. Yes. Jia Yan watched Hua Xiang leave with elegant and noble steps. He did not hesitate too much, waved his foot directly, and entered the retreat place with something useful to him. The main purpose of coming here this time was to study the effects of the cultivation materials in the coastal areas of this continent on him. Although they are both in other worlds, the mainland and the island where the dynasty is located are already separated by countless billions of kilometers, and the types of special products and treasures unearthed are completely different. Just like the Dao heart, the Dao heart here is also a fossil-like substance left behind by ancient creatures, but it has several more attributes and a lot of sedimentary taste. In terms of effect, it's not too bad, but Jia Yan is very sure that in terms of Tao Xian, this area of the mainland has much better Tao Xian than the dynasty. You'll understand when you taste it. It's just that those power leaders cannot give them out as ordinary gifts. It is indeed a land with vast territory and abundant resources. Jia Yan was filled with emotion. To put it bluntly, just like the Milky Way, the materials possessed by behemoths like the 4 giant stars are absolutely unbelievable to the outside world, and the level of treasures is definitely higher than other places in the Milky Way. In addition, the so-called world difference here actually has a unique flavor. I feel that there is some artistic conception in it, which reminds me of the things of enlightenment on Superstar. Jia Yan picked up a branch. The branch was packed in a treasure box. It was said to be a branch, but that was for a creature thousands of kilometers in size. To Jia Yan, this branch was even bigger than him. When he opened the box, there was a branch. An ancient and surging vitality surged in spontaneously. More importantly, Jia Yan felt some kind of power of understanding. This is something I have never experienced in the dynasty. But it is different from the enlightenment objects of the Milky Way, and the effect is also much worse. Jia Yan was quite sorry. But this thing definitely lives up to its reputation as a treasure. If you ask me, the effect of this thing may be 1% of the effect of the power of perception in the Milky Way. But this kind of thing is not absolute. For perception, you still have to rely on yourself, not the clan. For me, it doesn't have much effect on enlightenment, but maybe Chu Xing Lai will have a great effect. Will Jia Yan let Chu Xing share it? Impossible. He closed his eyes and meditated. After a while, the entire power of perception on this branch was exhausted. After being felt by Jia Yan, there was no breath at all. This is also very similar to ordinary enlightenment objects. After enlightenment, they are useless. I just don't know how the ascetics absorb the power of enlightenment. Jia Yan knew that the person who gave it to him also knew the power of this branch, but how did guru-level masters like them use this power of perception? After thinking for a while, he released his emptiness power again. That is, the level of strength one will have after reaching a certain level of cultivation. The current Jia Yan is no longer the Wuxia Amen back then in terms of spiritual power. Not to mention the ultimate, but there are ordinary Taoist masters who can't compare with the master or even the second master. After all, it is possible that someone has practiced for tens of thousands of years. Jia Yan was able to get started not long ago, but relying on the tyranny of the body's strength, the monastic realm is forcibly raised like a rocket. The next realm will take a lot of hard work. At least basic exploration can still be done. Well, sure enough, there is some kind of effect on it that is helpful to masters of Taoism, but this effect is not as helpful as a sub-master level being at most. Jia Yan knew that a simple gift given to him could not be of high quality. Just like the gifts he sent out, most of them were just nice words, but in fact they were just mass-produced things. It's just that it is absolutely rare in this world, and things are rare and valuable, so they may regard them as top-level treasures. Heal, cure, cure. The devouring begins. A continuous sound resounded on the surface of the branches, and a large number of peeling sounds resounded from time to time. Soon the surface of the branch was covered with scars, and then it seemed to explode, turning into powder and dissipating in the air. Jia Yan burped. It's weird, it actually makes me feel full, but I didn't actually eat them. Jia Yan pondered for a moment. He felt that he had found some key information. But it's too early to make a decision at this time. Since the other party would simply give similar items to him, I believe that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is willing to spend money and there are still many that can be acquired, so he will sit here for a while longer and be responsible for clearing this doubt. In fact, Jia Yan was able to let go of things in the dynasty's base camp and not worry about the supply of goods there being cut off and trade problems after his real body left. The reason was also very simple. That is, Jia Yan has a replacement. It's actually wrong to say it's a substitute. Because that replacement is his clone Black God. Black God's tireless and independent cultivation for so many years is not a fake practice. And he is also Jia Yan's clone. Over the years, Jia Yan has used various methods and racked his brains, and finally found a simple and effective plan, which is extremely reliable and allows the clone to use the methods he left behind in a short period of time. Entering and exiting the subspace plays a similar role to him. It's just that this matter is still confidential, and even if it is implemented, Jia Yan will make the clone cover up. After all, there are already too many people staring at his president, not only people from the other world, but also people from the Milky Way. Even among the higher UPS within the trade zone, many people were watching him, ready to make something go wrong for him or see some opportunity to take advantage of him. The real body left and used strange methods to keep the trade channels open. This matter definitely fell into the category of opportunities that can be exploited. Next, it's the turn of these Tau hearts, but they are simple and easy to use things. They are slightly different from those of the dynasty, but the overall changes are not big. For me, they are just swallowing and increasing their strength. What's more, the recent strength improvement has been somewhat. If it lags behind, I'm afraid it will enter some kind of stagnation period, and it won't be of much help. With the mentality of being better than nothing, Jia Yan devoured the Tau heart fruit with several attributes that he had left behind. You read a book. There are no unexpected surprises. Has average results. It's not that the Dao hearts of the other world are not good. They are much purer than the Dao hearts of the imperial dynasty, and their effects have also been improved. However, the bottleneck of strength is here, and there is very little improvement. It seems that both the cultivation system of the powerful in the galaxy and the universe, and the masters of the spiritual level, will have a bottleneck period. No wonder many masters of Taoism, after their strength reaches a certain level, realize that there is no hope of advancement, so they start to pursue pleasure. Countless expensive gold and silver vessels or pleasure gadgets produced by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce are unexpectedly popular in the outside world. There was even a scene that made Jia Yan somewhat unexpected. That is, the objects made here have developed more maturely than those in the Milky Way. After all, the materials here are so good, and the material stability is much better than that in the Milky Way. More than one step ahead, the reverse output also started. In the past 2 years, the export of products from the other world to the Milky Way has begun to gain momentum, and has even reached 1/2 of the trade volume between the Milky Way and the other world. In other words, the revenue from products traded from the other world to the Milky Way has reached the level of sales in the Milky Way. To the extent of 1/2 of the products of the other world, you must know that this is dumping from the civilized world to the indigenous world, and it can have such an effect. I have to say that the other world is too unique. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3223. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. Once sold, it will be a giant tree building of 10,000 to 20,000 kilometers. In the world inside, it is ordinary, but when it comes out, it will be a planet-level artificial creation that only top experts can afford. Compared with ordinary planetary defense and stability, it is a little bit better. Not bad, which strong man wouldn't be jealous? And because of its size, the price is not low at all. Jia Yan is responsible for transporting it and only earns some hard work. Selling it at 100,000 times the cost price is not considered a profiteer, right? If you close a few orders a year, your trade volume will increase. It seems that this place is indeed worthy of development. If it can directly connect with the Milky Way, the transaction volume may be scary. And with the size of this place, the remaining production capacity of the entire Milky Way factory may not be enough. That is, it is said that if the mainland can be developed, both in terms of cultivation materials and overall funds, it will be an unimaginable and shocking wealth for the trade zone. While using Tao Xi into practice, Jia Yan recalled what he saw and heard when he arrived at the coastal areas of the mainland. The so-called risks and benefits coexist. There are too many uncertain factors here, but there are also some equal opportunities for harvest. Jia Yan and Chu Xing are still a bit weak in their strength here. Even if all the masters from the trade area are thrown here, they may not be able to cope with it. Jia Yan's own strength positioning, at least in this coastal area, may not be considered top-notch. For example, those who are called super masters, that is, super leap masters, are probably more powerful than Jia Yan. The only thing he can rely on is the method of traveling through subspace. Subspace ability. As early as 10 years ago in the Battle of the Imperial Capital, they had tried to move in normal deep-level space. Now that another 10 years have passed, Jia Yan has already developed a more mature plan. The subspace outside this area of the mainland was said to be extremely far away from the island, but its depth was at a similar level to that of the island. Even if he tried his best, there was still a possibility of entering 1 or 2 breaths. These 2 breaths, if used well, can make him escape thousands of miles away. No, Qinli is looking down on him. It is possible for tens of billions of kilometers. Which strong person can chase him? Besides, I have another thing to investigate. He thought thoughtfully. From the mouth of the founder of the dynasty, I asked about the whereabouts of the senior supreme in the world. After he appeared on the island, he entered the mainland all the way. If the Supreme Senior is the coincidence of the heavenly road achieved in the other world, then here in the mainland, there is destined to be a real opportunity for us and other territory lords to succeed in their promotion to the next level. This is also one of the key reasons why Jia Yan wants to set foot in the mainland. He even thought about it more than once, whether the old master who secretly hid in the group of tourists and pretended to be an ordinary domain lord, who disappeared completely after massacring several small family settlements in the dynasty like a flash in the pan, would now enter mainland area. If so, the other party must have had certain clues as far back as the Milky Way and was targeting the mainland. It's a pity that this continent is incredibly huge. In the vast sea of people, if you want to find a powerful alien who is smaller than Jia Yan, it's basically like looking for a needle in a haystack. Jia Yan doesn't have too many expectations. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Otherwise, we can find him and share the information. After all, Jia Yan also has some very key clues in his hand. Who knows if the two parties can accomplish something big if they combine it. Of course, Jia Yan is just thinking about it. Jia Yan is not sure about the situation of the other party. He may be dead. Or even to exaggerate, he may be on the right path and ready to be promoted. However, this possibility it's the youngest one, it's only been a few decades. Even Jia Yan didn't dare to think about it. It only takes him a few decades to step through the promotion door to the lower ranks of territory lords. This journey is probably extremely long. Jia Yan thinks that he has good talents. But if he wants to go from the current 30-odd steps to the 99 steps, and then break through the last step for promotion, it will probably take hundreds of people. It may even take thousands of years. In such a long process, there is no such thing as a sudden enlightenment and a sudden rise. A few days later. The cultivation process of a strong person is extremely long. Even if it is just a retreat, it took Jia Yan several days. The improvement is only a little bit. As soon as the door of the training room was opened, Hua Xiang was waiting outside the door and said, "Master Jia Yan, there is a person outside the door who claims to be from the universe and wants to pay a visit to you." Another cosmic powerhouse? Jia Yan only found it interesting. These powerful men of the universe had been visiting him as early as the time of the Imperial Island. In fact, it is not difficult to understand. Except for the Milky Way, there is no sign of any star intersecting with the other world. They are extremely rare and extremely rare in the other world. And these few extraterrestrial visitors are generally very weak. So when they saw the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, an organization that also came from the universe, they all came to join them. Do you really think we are the same kind? Jia Yan smiled. The universe is so big, Jia Yan can definitely guarantee that it is much bigger than the other world. It is unclear whether he is close to the powerful people in the other world or to other astrological visitors from outside the world. So it would be unreasonable for him to protect these guys without any gain. I've met the president. Jia Yan looked at the extraterrestrial visitor coming in front of him and had to say that this person must be able to mix with the local people. His body height is more than 2,000 kilometers. In the other world, he is not considered huge, but he is quite tall. Among the rare strong men in the universe, he can be said to be an Optimus Prime-like existence. No need to be polite. I wonder where you are from. I come from about 200 million light-years away from the Milky Way. Our galaxy is a civilized world where cultivation and technology are advanced. I accidentally entered this place because I was fashionable and young, so I didn't bring much knowledge in. Now think about it. It's really disappointing. Pretty much the same rhetoric. Every time Jia Yan is interested in meeting powerful people from other galaxies, the other party always says the same thing. Either bragging about my hometown, or reflecting on why I didn't learn more about my hometown's cowhide skills in the past. In short, it expresses the same meaning: my hometown is very tricky. If you help me, you may gain something in the future. Possibility of return. But Jia Yan couldn't do this. The hunter hasn't seen the rabbit yet. He can't even see the possibility of these guys giving even a glimmer of benefit, so why bother? This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. I promise you that I can allow you to purchase a Chamber of Commerce product at a 15% discount. You go back and tell other partners that this president expresses my most sincere greetings for your experience. Anyone who wants to work in the future can come to me at any time. I will give you high wages. Well, the strong man who came 2,000 kilometers away felt a little confused. It shouldn't be him, a fellow, who came to vote with sincerity. Everyone in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce can empathize with him. Instead of holding each other's hands and crying, they should take more care of his group. Why did he end up with a 9? Benefits of 50% off products. However, the 50% discount seems not bad. He has long been eyeing a Galaxy Chamber of Commerce product. The 95% discount can save a small amount of money, but he also seriously doubts that this so-called 50% discount is not for ordinary customers. It's a price you can get at a bargain. Mr. President, we are here with other greeting gifts. He thought for a while and quickly revealed his trump card. Jia Yan became slightly interested, but of course he didn't speak or express his opinion. He only waited until he saw the so-called gift before speaking, otherwise he would easily fall into passivity. The other party took a very strange thing from a friend around him. The people in the other world have different cultivation skills than the beings in our universe, so we have the opportunity to find this thing that is useless to them, but can still be regarded as a treasure to us. I wonder if Sir Jia Yan is interested? Jia Yan saw this thing first, and the giant mosquito's compound eyes suddenly condensed, and then quickly disappeared. Only the brilliance in his eyes could be vaguely glimpsed by the powerful at the same level. It can be seen that Jia Yan's heart is in turmoil. Where did you come from these things? Reply to the president, where it comes from, I can't tell you at this time, but we can guarantee that the effect of this thing is good, and it also has some strange secrets. Anyway, we can't solve it for the time being. If you are interested, we can give it to you, maybe you are the destined person. Jia Yan looked at the two powerful men entering the negotiation with great interest, and said calmly, if I accept it, what do you need me to do? The two people across from each other looked at each other with joy in their eyes, knowing that something was going on. Sir, we don't need you to do anything. We only need you to act as our protector. In the future, we can continue to find similar objects from certain places. You only need to help us once a year at most. Ken. One hand. This matter can be big or small. If it were an ordinary enemy, it would only take one shot, but Jia Yan would not be stingy. But it would be too uneconomical if he had to give his all to exist every time. No matter how good this treasure is, Jia Yan can't make fun of his own life. Sir, this matter can be discussed. The masters we have to deal with are absolutely impossible to have super master level strength. We believe that even if you can't deal with it, sir, relying on the reputation and foundation of your Chamber of Commerce, you can be at a standstill with that person. In fact, it's not that you really need to take action every year. You might help us once or twice at first, and then we'll be in peace for a long time. Jia Yan nodded with a serious smile and asked, if the so-called long-term peace and stability really comes, will you still give me something similar? This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Of course, if adults are willing, we will always send at least one such item every year. Jia Yan's eyes suddenly lit up. The other party also clearly noticed Jia Yan's heartbeat. Sir, if this matter is settled, we will not regret it. We can sign a 50-year peace contract. If our group fails to pay tribute even once in the past 50 years, Your Excellency can send people to eradicate us collectively. Jia Yan's eyes changed even more. What the other party said so confidently meant that they had owned the tribute for at least 50 years. Jia Yan's eyes were dangerous for a moment, but he soon calmed down. Presumably they dared to say these words, so they hid the things so that he couldn't find them. If there is a way to get all 50 treasures without resorting to drastic measures, it would be a good deal for Jia Yan. Let's do it this way. You all honestly explain the specific incident and the information about the target I need to deal with. I will then evaluate the risk and decide whether to accept your request. If there is any concealment, I will do the same. I can leave at any time, and I may even hold you and others accountable for the crime of deception. Do you understand what I mean? Yes. The two of them felt uneasy under Jia Yan's glance. Although they are 1 or 2,000 kilometers in size, their strength is only at the domain lord level. And the overall feeling of strength gave Jia Yan a very strange artistic conception. It's no wonder. The entire universe is so vast and boundless. Presumably the other party's cultivation method and even principles are very different from Jia Yan's. Jia Yan was also very interested in their practice method at first. When he was in Xiancheng, he actually accepted many people who took refuge in them and became screws in the development of Xiancheng. But Jia Yan soon discovered that he was wrong. Those outsiders from outside the world are said to have special outsiders from outside attributes like Jia Yan, and their strength is also good. Their training systems sound extremely correct at first glance, and they have a lot to learn from each other. But after actually studying it, Jia Yan felt, this is all a piece of shit. Every alien visitor told Jia Yan that their cultivation skills were used in their hometown, and that they had reached an extremely powerful level in reading books. They also said that their elders had reached the level of super master, but Jia Yan didn't get the slightest benefit from the secret cultivation techniques he contributed. It's not the Dongzihunong Jiayan that they took out. Rather, Jia Yan deeply felt that although both sides were powerful men in the universe, the farther they were from each other, the basis and needs for cultivation had all changed. The treasures in the hands of the other side were just nonsense in Jia Yan's hands. After these things happened again and again, Jia Yan finally understood that studying their cultivation techniques was not as good as studying the cultivation power of the other world. At least in this regard, Jia Yan had gained something from his cultivation so far. So from there, Jia Yan turned a blind eye to all the alien people who came out of the mountains who knew where they were after hearing the name of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Those who were capable were allowed to work, and those who were incompetent were treated the same. Become a coolie worker. At this time, he regarded the group of guys in front of him as ordinary defectors. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading --U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. But if they have their own abilities and can offer treasures, it is not beyond negotiation. From Jia Yan's point of view, these guys are like gold comes out of the sky. It's quite surprising that the old men from Yuan Fang, who he usually doesn't like much, actually give out really useful things. After a while, the two outsiders left respectfully after completing the negotiation. From now on, they can call themselves staff members of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. 96 Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3224. Only forces like the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which also come from outside the world, would not feel incompatible with accepting them. This group of extraterrestrial visitors has been deceived and even killed by countless local forces. After receiving the news from the two men at this time, many outsiders who gathered in the dark corners nearby were so excited that tears filled their eyes. Jia Yan, on the other hand, didn't care what they thought. He trapped himself in the training room again and studied the newly acquired gadgets all day long. It was said to be a secret treasure, but Jia Yan didn't think so. Because the object in his hand, Jia Yan could clearly see that it was a man-made object. Is it a technological creation? But it seems to have been severely damaged. Jia Yan carefully inspected the more than 200 kilometers of objects that he touched from beginning to end. He could feel that there was extremely abundant cosmic power above, but this power was also chaotic. It was certain that it did not belong to the same system as the cosmic power of the Milky Way. It was a technological creation, and it was damaged. If my prediction is correct, it should be a weapon used by a strong man, and the area where this strong man was born is exactly a certain galaxy in the universe. Jia Yan came to a conclusion. He placed his feet on the weapon, which was too damaged to look like its original form, and silently began to devour the energy inside. While thinking about its origin in my mind, perhaps masters from other galaxies who came here in ancient times started an unprecedented fierce battle with local strongmen. In the end, the weapon was damaged. It is still unclear whether the user won or lost. What is certain is that the user my strength, even if it is not at the level of a super master, should still be at the 10th level of Tianlu. Now, I am no match for a head-on confrontation. Through simple judgment, Jia Yan made his first assessment of the origin and causes of the objects in his hands. This assessment is naturally not absolute, and there may be evidence that will quickly overturn his assessment. The aura above is very different from that of the Supreme Senior, and it is obviously not that of the Supreme Senior. From this point of view, this world continent is not completely different from what I imagined. There should have been a steady stream of outside visitors looking for opportunities. Could it be the so-called is this how the legend of the opportunity for breakthrough gradually formed? Jia Yan is certain that the idea that the other world will help the strong men in the universe break through is definitely true. If this is not true, so many clues show that in the universe, many top masters have escaped into the other world, searching for their opportunities in this vast continent. Senior Taizhang is a living example. He is still the top being in the Milky Way, sitting in the black hole area of the Milky Way. Jia Yan's heart became hot. At the same time, the action of absorbing the weapon fragments also stopped swallowing, the energy attached to the weapon was exhausted. It smells good. If I can absorb it once a year, even just such fragments will be of great benefit to my cultivation. Jia Yan's eyes lit up. This is a way of cultivation that belongs to a different universe. Based on this power, he even felt the laws of the outer galaxy. So that's it? The physical laws in the universe are the same as those in the other world, but they are actually different in every place. The facts are really shocking. It's like telling people on Earth that in fact, in the universe, the basic forces such as gravity, inertia, friction, etc. are not fixed values in all directions in the entire universe. If this fact is revealed, I am afraid it will immediately cause an uproar. However, just like the laws of this world are completely different from the laws of the galaxy. Judging from the process of Jia Yan's devouring power, it can be seen that the other party's cultivation path is adapted to another kind of power system and is also suitable for another kind of physical law. Being able to absorb it, there is also some kind of weird insight. This is not yet a matter of enlightenment, but it gave me a very strong inner understanding. Combined with the energy awareness of my body, my view of the universe and energy have been greatly improved. Jia Yan savored all this and couldn't help but nod slightly. Actually, overall, this is just a fragment of a weapon. After all, although the original owner must be stronger than Jia Yan, it is just a weapon used by the other party, and it is still a fragment. Generally speaking, it would not have such an effect, but the scary thing is that Jia Yan is an evolved beast. It would take a lot of time to feel the extraordinary power of these fragments if other advanced masters from the galaxy territory lords arrived, and then they would have to devour them. Don't worry about it. It's not an evolved beast. It can swallow the physical laws of other galaxies casually. Even if it doesn't die, even if it is lucky enough to go out every day, it can pick up the lottery jackpot. Jia Yan didn't feel very good, and he lay on the ground with some dejection. Just a pair of compound eyes, bright enough. He can even be sure that, if only he is talking about himself, these gadgets are already a big harvest for him when he came to the mainland. They can make up for the various discomforts caused by his previous indiscriminate devouring of Tao hearts and the shortcomings in his understanding of the universe, thereby perfecting his personal perception. It is already an extraordinary harvest. This was not long after he came to this area. Let's do this. I'll just stall for time and let these guys send me a few years' worth of fragments to devour. Don't be in a hurry when I go back. The clone should be able to withstand it, right? What happened to the real body? At this moment, on the other side of the Imperial Island, there was a young man with black eyes wearing black clothes, his expression extremely cold. He really worked hard. So tired. The day before yesterday was another round of delivery and passenger transportation. Everyone saw a giant mosquito creature that was more than 60 kilometers long entering the front of the truck in the extremely long trade channel. It's just that this creature seems to be a little phantom. After entering, the car started moving at a much slower speed than when they usually rode. Trembling. Some people are still wondering if it is Master Jia Yan who has been a little absent-minded recently, why the train is shaking when he pulls it. But no one dares to say. It may seem like they are far apart, but to a strong person, everyone in the train, no matter who is laughing or yelling, can see everyone laughing and yelling. It would be uncomfortable to dare to say bad things in front of them. Rumble. The train docked, and the passengers who wanted to witness this top master with their own eyes found the phantom of the giant mosquito disappeared before they could poke their heads out. I'm so exhausted. Black God Jia Yan was in a rest room that only belonged to Jia Yan, his chest heaving. And the shadow of the giant mosquito gradually turned into a huge formation, in which countless small formation discs were vaguely visible to make up every small detail. The light converged again and was sucked into a small space between the fingers of Black God Jia Yan. Haha, it turns out that my tireless efforts to absorb the false Taoist heart in the inner world is effective. It has strengthened the artificial world I control and made it more stable. Now it can accommodate not weak energy. Black God Jia Yan felt his physical condition with satisfaction. The strength of his avatar was completely insufficient to support the travel between the world and the galaxy, but he did not live up to his expectations. In fact, when Jia Yan traveled in person earlier, the clone secretly used his own abilities, combined with the new research on formations given by the real body, and was able to come in and out easily. After that, there were several times when the real body did not accompany him, and the clone also after being able to come and go freely. After such a test, the real body finally relaxed and placed the burden of transporting the two worlds on the body of the Black God Jiayan. And the Black God clone has the unique advantage of any other clone, that is, he has the ability to create the world. Even if this world enters the other world, no major problems will arise, so it has become the most convenient portable space for the real body and the clone. In addition, after gradually improving, the power of the hidden body enters it. At the critical moment, the Black God clone can even explode with terrifying and shocking strength, reaching the level of most of the real body's strength in a short time. This is quite shocking. It illustrates the advantages of the clone in creating the world, integrating it with certain benefits of the other world, and having the huge and unparalleled energy of the real body as the foundation. The Black God clone finally grew into a force that no one can ignore. In addition to consuming the power of the real body, it is impossible for the clone to fight independently for a long time without the real body. There are no other disadvantages at all. If necessary, the Black God clone thinks that he dares to face the Senior Domain Lord, or the Inside. The world's secondary divisions are in fierce battle. Regardless of the damage to the created world, he might even take 1 or 2 hits against a weak Senior Domain Lord without losing. After all, the Black God clone also possesses all the fighting consciousness of the real body. Huh? Dad, didn't Dad's real body come out today? After leaving the restroom, he saw Jiarong waiting in the secret passage, but before the real body of Jiayan he thought was there, the person who came was the clone of the Black God. Monk Zhong'er was immediately confused. Haha, the true body has not left the other world, the Black God clone said with a smile. Oh, No, Jiarong Ben responded simply, but his eyes hardened and he quickly looked at the Black God clone. You're right, I also have the ability to pull a car in and out of the other world. Is this, really? That's great. Jiarong was really happy and even stuttered a little. Because the more Jia family members who have this kind of power and ability, the better. After all, Jia Yan's true form is the only one who needs to practice and even deal with all the major issues in the world. Many people have long speculated that there will always be someone. One day, the world channel will have unstable shifts due to Jia Yan's personal problems. However, after searching for so long, he rummaged through the entire surrounding area, and even found a domain master level subspace master to let the other party try. In the end, with all the equipment, he only broke into 11 times by himself. In the space, the seriously injured man fled back with a dark face, took off his equipment, and picked up the boy without saying a word. The domain lord level just wants to break into the other world and eat shit. It's better now. Although the person with this ability is still Jia Yan, in a sense, he can also liberate his true form, which also gives the entire Nyoda trade zone one more option. Okay, prepare a place for me to rest. I will send them back in a few days. Besides, your sister is also in some turmoil in the other world. I have to go and take care of her. It's not good to not rest. Well, the resting place is ready. Dad, come with me. The Jia family is very unique because they can call several people the head of the family. This is reflected in Jiarong and Jia Makiao, that is, they can call several fathers, and they are all biological fathers. It'll be fine once you get used to it. In any case, the relationship between the clone and the real body is, strictly speaking, they are the same person. Master Jia Yan went back to the other world directly. Now, I still want to ask Master Jia Yan to deal with a difficult matter. If you have any troublesome issues, just talk to me directly. In the office, looking at the Black God clone who had just traveled through subspace and arrived in the Milky Way, several high-level domain masters and above were hesitant. It's not like they didn't know that this one was one of Jia Yan's clones. But according to their perception, the strength of this clone does not seem to exceed the galaxy level at most. Perhaps for top experts, the strength of the clone cannot be explained by naked eye observation, but no matter what, this clone should not be able to solve the problem. The strength of the issue at hand. But they didn't hesitate for long. The clone is like the real body. Jia Yan's real body can also quickly know the disrespect at this time. Instead of offending others, it is better to put the problem out. The clone can solve it. If it can't, it will also prevent Jia Yan from having a chance to question them in the future. Ability. That's right, a group of envoys from the central star field of the Milky Way have arrived. Messenger from the central star field of the Milky Way. Just hearing these words, the Black God clone became serious. The Milky Way central star region represents too many meanings. The most critical meaning is that the visitor is likely to be a member of some major forces in the galaxy's central star region. What forces are they? What are they doing? He asked. It's like this. These visitors should have inquired about the existence of the trade channel, and even knew about Master Jia Yan and Master Jiji Chuxing, but they were very aggressive. They said they wanted to join our trade zone. They could help we open up the situation and expand the trade volume between the inner world and the Milky Way, and even become truly famous in both worlds. Hey, to say nice things. Isn't this an obvious act of picking peaches? Jia 11, who had followed halfway, sneered. No one said anything, because what Jia 11 said was right. Today, in the trade zone, it is not that there are no ways to continue to grow trade and profits, but that there are too many ways. However, just like the reason why Jiarong was happy just now, what really limits the interests of the trade zone is not technology, nor ability, nor personnel. It's because Jia Yan's transportation capacity is so great. We can't let him, a low-ranking territory lord, do nothing all day long and just act as a human transporter. Therefore, the so-called visitors from the Milky Way Central Force are probably here to pick peaches. Black God Jia Yan's face turned ugly for a moment, then he said slowly, the other party dared to say that, they must have some basis for it. After all, you also said that they knew the existence of my true form and Jiji, so they dared to be so domineering. It shows that they are confident and tell them their reasons.